Unmuted, I believe, and we are recording, so great. It's Tuesday, April 22nd. Thank you so much. This is the Community Board 1 April full board meeting. We're gonna do a little shuffling around of the agenda tonight to accommodate some people who have multi commitments, and the opportunity to be with us could not be given up. So we're gonna start, instead of during public session, we're gonna have Keisha Sutton Jones from the Manhattan Borough President's Office start us off as one of our elected reps. Welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for accommodating my insane schedule. For the record, I'm Keisha Sutton James. I know you know this actually.
I said sorry.
But I just, for the record, I want to make sure it's right. It's my pleasure to finally be with you somehow. I don't know how. This is my first time reporting out to CB1 in person, even though this is where I work many days. So I'm delighted to be here. I have a few updates from the borough president. First is around the helicopter letter that the borough president sent to the administration after the really tragic helicopter crash that occurred a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, there are many dangers to helicopter, especially unnecessary helicopter travel. And this tragedy really highlighted that for many of us. The letter that he wrote, where he's calling on several different compliance changes, is on our website. I will give many of the things I'm going to say. I'm going to refer you to our website, which is Manhattan BP as in borough president.nyc.gov. Again, Manhattan BP as in borough president .nyc.gov. Moving on, thank you all to many of you who were able, I'm seeing a few faces in the room, people who were able to come to the Manhattan Borough President's 2025 State of the Borough, which was held at Boys and Girls, not Boys and Girls, excuse me. What was it? LaGuardia, thank you. Keisha needs help sometimes. Phone a friend, thank you. Great. Thanks. I was like, where are Boys and Girls? LaGuardia. High School. Thank you all for those of you who are able to attend. Highlighted a lot of the work, obviously, that this office has done and some of the things that are to come. If you did not see it, that is on the website. Community board term limits update and community board appointments updates. On the appointments, thank you all, those of you who have applied or those of you who are returning and reapplying. Thank you for applying and for reapplying and for doing your interviews. And we had, I think, 950 plus applications this year. So another big year. We appreciate all the interest. We will be able to we're in the process of, doing the conversations between the council members and the borough president and working it all out. We will be making announcements in the first week in May. And then for community board members, all of you, your term limits have now been posted. So if you go, so each of you know that there are, all of you, I'm sure, know that there are term limits beginning in 2019 for 4 consecutive 2-year terms, and beginning in 2020 appointments serving for 5 consecutive 2-year terms. And because some of you may have joined in, as a replacement, filling, someone else's vacancy or what have you, those lists are on our website. If you go to our website, which I already gave you the address for, go to the community affairs section, go to your community board, and that is where you will find your name with your term limit expiration, if you will. Moving on, there's a few announcements I just wanted to make sure to share. Sidewalk sheds. Many of you, I'm sure, Tammy, I know we have talked about this a lot in Borough Board and lots of different forums. But fortunately, many of you know that the borough president was leading a package of bills meant to address the scourge of sidewalk sheds that we have to deal with in New York City, but in particular Manhattan. Fortunately, the council passed that package of bills, and the legislation obviously moves on. If you need, have more information, I have a lot to talk about tonight, so I'm not getting into details, but go to the website, and all of that is there on our website. Finally, 2 more things. There are a couple of op-eds that the borough president has put out. One is about parks, and the first is around parks employees calling on the city to reinstate and fully fund for all of the 800 parks employees who are not currently funded for. Obviously, green spaces, parks, is critical for our sanity. It sure is critical for mine. I will walk through a park to my next meeting so that I can be sane for the next meeting. But we need the green spaces. We need to have our parks open, in particular in the summer. And then finally, Woolman Rink, speaking of a very special park, Central Park, the borough president and Councilmember Krishnan, who chairs the Parks Committee, wrote an op-ed, calling on the mayor's office to, reject, Donald Trump's bid to operate Woolman Rink, because obviously Woolman Rink is a very special place that, calls for a certain level of cultural, of inclusivity. And we want it to be a space that all New Yorkers or tourists or newest New Yorkers are comfortable, and that is certainly not a brand that, Trump reflects. So those are our updates. All those, everything I've just mentioned is on our website as well. Questions?
So, one comment I'm gonna make, once the board appointments come back out, we'll have the office email everybody who was up for reelection. That is the date that if you have not been reappointed, you are no longer on the board. But if you do not hear from anybody saying, hey, appointments are out, so please show up to your May meetings. Just saying, you're on the board until the appointments come out. There always seems to be that conversation every year. So I just want to make it clear. I hope to see all of you in every meeting until your service is done. Any questions for Sutton James? Thank you. I see no hands
You
online.
got one. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Where's it go?
No, it's right beside you.
And then there's one over here.
Alice, you go
Thank
first.
you, Rosa. No, I just have one question. The borough president was outspoken and really terrific on the 5G link towers and his belief that there's a better way than what we've been seeing in terms of the potential for these very large columnar structures to come up throughout the city. And he advocated for the use of the existing infrastructure. Has he gotten anywhere on that campaign?
I have to tell you, I don't know what the latest is on 5G. I feel like I have to circle back with you, and because this is, to be honest, something I haven't heard about, or not heard an update on in a couple of months. I know that there's obviously been huge advocacy. I serve on a couple of bids that are also really vocal about it. And a lot of people, a lot of different stakeholders throughout the borough are really vocal on it. I have to circle back.
That'd be great. I think there's something coming up, a public meeting about it. I haven't confirmed the time, and it would be great to get some response on that. Thanks a lot.
Justine,
A stupid question, excuse me. I found it on the website, the term expirations information. When it says term expiration, that means that's it. That's your 8 years, your 10 years, whatever it is. Thank you.
however, you can reapply after you're off for
Yes.
a year.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
I see, that's great news for some of our. Anybody else in the room have any questions? We will do board members first, and then I will let the public, because she's here during the public hearing. Richard.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that. We have something on the agenda tonight about DOT and open streets, and I wonder if the borough president is taking a position on that.
Is this, are you a particular open street?
Yeah, this is allowing exclusive seating in DOT pedestrian plazas and open streets.
Up
It's
to,
not a particular location, it's a general
it's a flat
chain.
30% available.
No, it's 30 to 50% if I'm reading it correctly.
This is the DOT rulemaking comment period.
I don't think so. But I will check, because I don't recall,
We have a resolution on it. We're happy to send it to you tonight after
Yeah.
the board.
but it hasn't gone to, you have a resolution, it hasn't gone to borough board.
Public hearings tomorrow.
Right, yeah. I don't think so, but I will double check and let them, let our folks know that there's an inquiry about it.
And I would say pursuant to the conversations that we have had on the board, take a look at what the public comments are online.
Yeah.
And that'll give you just not only CB1, but greater. Anybody else? I know before I get to Anthony, I have one other thing for you. The ticket holders down in the Battery have increased to a level that's on an untenable side. While we've been working patiently with NYPD, DCWP, and others for rulemaking changes and other things like that, and Councilmember Powers and Marte are working on legislation. Of course, Speaker Adams has to let that legislation come through. It's a ridiculous, I'd call it almost like a war zone. If you would like to go into the Battery, you get stopped by the ticket hawkers saying, "Oh, are you looking for a cruise?" And you're like you can't get in. And if you say, "Yes, I'm looking," they say, "Oh, well, you know, sometimes the park is closed, the boats are sold out." All complete lies and scams to get them to buy from those that then they load them on a bus and take them uptown. So it's not 10 people, 20 people. They've been clocked at over 100 to 150 around. It's in my chair report, but I will comment that we're asking BPCA to put signage on the outside of their construction. But again, Parks is underfunded. The Battery Conservancy is underfunded. They're illegal on the sidewalks, and yet they're there in the hundreds every single day.
And it's an assault.
And it's harassment and you're not gonna have people like, you've got the local community who are getting yelled at when they complain as they're going by to walk their dogs and get into the dog run.
Wow.
And so, yes, we encourage them to file 311 and 911, but it's not enough, and as soon as the police come in and they do an amazing job, they run through, they scatter, they're gone, the arrests are done, and then an hour later, it looks as if nobody had been there.
So thank you for that. I have actually heard of similar dynamics in other parts of the borough. And in particular, actually harassment going across the different businesses. So
Yes.
one business harassing another business, that kind of. I thank you for this. I'll take this back as well.
I'd be happy to go on a walk with you any day.
Okay, I'm happy to schedule it.
Anthony is the member of the public that I will recognize. I know well.
Hey, Anthony.
Hi, my name is Anthony Hannigan. I want to ask, are you aware of the now approved contract for 320 Pearl Street? That's a low barrier safe haven shelter that's supposed to open directly adjacent to the Peckslip Elementary School.
Yes, I am.
So just to give you the quick highlights, when we had Breaking Ground, the provider here, and when they were asked a direct question, they admitted to the fact that they anticipate their residents to continue drug use. They're not allowed to use on site. So when asked the direct question, what happens when your residents, go to the corner, use needles, leave them behind? Their response was that the school would need to do a sweep for needles before lineup each day and before recess. Just to kind of give you, an example of how dramatic this is. The shelter is planning on opening in July, and so I'm asking why there hasn't been more support from the borough president's office, and if you guys can get more involved, because if something doesn't happen, there's an entire community that's really affected here, and I'm not sending my kids to that school, and there's a lot of.
I got it. I thank you. I will take this back as well. Some of the things that we've seen in other parts of the borough are that the provider actually has, their street cleanup crew, if you will, that is doing that, but also I know in one site, for example, they have an 800 number where that is given out to the community. So if there is a sighting of something that that the community members can call that 800 number and say, you need to send someone out and clean this up.
Which I think that's 50 feet away from.
No, it's 5. The side door is 5 feet from the shelter entrance to a school.
It's really quite disgraceful.
Do that, yeah.
And it's about to be an open street as well in front of the school for the children because they don't have enough play space. Compound that with the fact that we have our experiences of 105 Washington with a different operator. But if you call, it is not an immediate response. You're lucky if you get a response because if they're busy in the building, they cannot attend to outside because quite frankly, outside is not their domain. It's like a real estate deal. You only worry about the sidewalk in front of your house. So it's, unless City Hall does something,
Got it.
there's nothing to be done. And it's dangerous enough that the Department of Education approved emergency safety transfers over the summer last summer in
Yeah.
anticipation of this opening. until it got bigger than the principal wanted the dialogue to be, and DOE shut it down.
Right.
But that's tells you something. Eric, last comment.
Would the Manhattan Borough President support having a minimum distance of homeless shelters from public schools? Or any school where you have children under 18? Because this shouldn't happen, it shouldn't even be considered if it's that close, you know, in this case, it's extreme. But there needs to be a minimum distance. I think 500 feet is reasonable within the city. Also, there needs to be a cancellation of this emergency RFP process where any mayor can cite a homeless shelter without going through ULURP, without going through the official procedure of having its impact reviewed. Because the way it is now, all they have to do is provide notice, and then before you know it, the contracts are signed, it's already in negotiations.
Yeah.
We need to have an open, transparent process where all the stakeholders, especially Manhattan Borough Presidents, city planning, can give their official recommendation.
Thank you.
I think we stand on record noting the objection that if you're a member of the UFT, you're not allowed to smoke within 200 feet of a school. You're not allowed to smoke cigarettes at all.
Yeah.
We have distancing requirements for cannabis and for liquor stores and for restaurants. And yet you're talking about a facility that is an active drug use facility, and there's no citing distancing requirements from our most vulnerable population.
That's because he only gave money to have it.
So those are some things that we would truly hope and help for.
Thank you.
So everybody say thank you to Keisha and James for coming.
Thank you all. And for the amazing questions. I got some work to do. Get back to you all. Thank you all.
Alrighty. So we're gonna carry on with our public session, and I'm gonna, Anthony, you're up in the public session as the first. I know you just spoke, but I'll give you your 2 minutes.
Is Robin on?
Eve is here from the mayor's office.
Hi, Eve. Are you there?
Hello, yes, good evening.
I'm wondering if you can give us any update on getting a deputy mayor or anybody here that can make a decision about the no barrier safe haven shelter at 320 Pearl Street
I do not have an update at this time. It's being reviewed.
like what's the timeline? Because the shelter's supposed to open in July, and I've been given the same answer for 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're just gonna keep telling me it's being reviewed and then
Until
open the
opens.
shelter anyway.
Yeah.
I could just flag it and take it back to City Hall.
Eve, I appreciate the flagging. It's been flagged by Robin. I would hope at this point Christian is flagged it. We sent a letter to the deputy mayor. It's really telling in, that unfortunately, they didn't prepare you or even respond back to us. So I'm sorry, but again, that's not sorry.
Yeah.
Eric, you're next.
Oh.
for Public session.
I already spoke.
You good? Okay. Do we have anybody else who's here for the public session? Sometimes my spreadsheet doesn't work so well. And if you are online, please raise your hand. Cool. Seeing none online with their hands raised, seeing no one else in the room, we're going to close the public session and we're going to move straight to our public hearing. We're going to welcome Marissa Yanni, who's Community Affairs for GSNY. For compost enforcement, feel free, come have a seat at the table or come stand over here, whatever makes you most comfortable.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
all right, is this good back here?
perfect.
All right, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Marissa Yanni, Manhattan Community Affairs Liaison from the Department of Sanitation, here to give a brief update on compost, answer any questions that you have. So I know we've been in the news a little bit, but just like kind of how we are. Compost is not paused. Compost is not paused, enforcement is not paused. So service is still ongoing. Please keep composting. Compost is still mandatory. Enforcement is going to really ramp up for buildings that are 30 units or more. That's where we're going to put a lot more focus on. Those are in smaller buildings or single family, double family homes. We're going to really focus on education and outreach. That's one reason that I'm also here tonight, to talk to as many people as possible, tell you more about how to compost. I have a flyer in the back that actually tells you that compost is mandatory and just ways that you can compost. If you don't know, there's also stickers in the back. Those are our decals that tell you everything that can go in your compost bin. Unlike some other food scrap drop-off sites, we take everything, including dairy, meat, bones, everything, as anything that grows goes, can go into the bin. Also want to note that when you are using your compost bin, we do prefer that you line it, or you could put it in a plastic bag. We do open up those bags with our machinery, so no bags are gonna go inside the, with the rest of the compost and get kind of made into soil, but we really would appreciate you using liners for your compost bins, or even if it's multiple bags inside the bin. Also want to make one note, we do have our compost give back locations. Our big ones are in Staten Island, Brooklyn, and Queens. Does not help you, but we are having pop-up locations throughout the borough of Manhattan, as well as in the Bronx and Staten Island. It is all on our website, but the one that's specifically in your district is at, I'm gonna mess this up, Bogardus Plaza. Do we know
That's
that in
it.
Tribeca?
Yes.
Okay, everyone knew. And the other closest one would be Tompkins Square Park, somewhat close to you all. That is on our website. That would be Tompkins is on May 3rd and Bogardus is on May 13th. But again, the full list, let's say you're randomly in Harlem one day, you might be around there and you can actually pick up some compost.
You said Tompkins Square was what date?
Tompkins is, one second, May 3rd. And I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have. There are hands. Who is allowed to choose? I don't know if I'm allowed to choose.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Aaron.
we're good.
Okay, I'm glad DSNY has suspended the issuing of summonses. It's a big change for people.
We did not
You didn't-
suspend,
you
no,
didn't.
no, we're still, no.
Okay,
Service and enforcement is still ongoing. We might be issuing more warnings
okay,
than before. But yes, no, you could still get a ticket.
okay.
Enforcement didn't stop.
All right, well, maybe not so aggressive about it then.
Yes,
Okay.
fine, I'll take
Fine,
that,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, it's a big change for people to adjust. And thank you for mentioning about using plastic bags.
Yes,
Because I went to one of those tours where it showed that it can be easily separated, the plastic bags, and it does serve a need, to reduce odor, especially as summer approaches.
yeah, we don't want a bin just full of raw
Yeah.
food scraps. I don't know what we would do with it.
Now, does DSNY, do they still take this organic waste and they put it into digesters, or do they actually compost it?
It's actually both. Some material is gonna go to Staten Island to Fresh Coast, and then other material will go to Newtown Creek Waste Treatment Center. And some of it's gonna go over there.
Okay.
I don't have the split in my head.
I hope that if there is surplus, DSNY would consider giving it to Department of Parks and Rec so they can use it for the street trees.
We do give some to parks and to school, and then we do as many give backs as we can. We actually have a lot, which is so great. A lot of folks have actually started really well from October when we had Bronx, Staten Island, and Manhattan do their rollout. So yes, we have a large amount of compost. But yes, thank you so much.
Okay, I'm gonna go in order around the room. Jared, Gabby, Wendy.
Just a comment about the give backs. If there's any feedback on it, I think doing it regularly rather than once a season, in some of these neighborhoods would be helpful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know you can go, if you have a car to Staten Island or to Brooklyn. But
And
I think it's, but I think it's much more tangible for people to sort of understand the benefit of what they're doing if there's more regular.
Got it. I would say, first, the 3 new boroughs that started, you all just started in October, so we really didn't have much from you to give it back to you yet. In our defense. But thank you, that is a positive flag. I think as we do more, I think we'll be able to do it more often. But I will bring that back.
Gabby?
I have 2 quick questions. Are bins available for households for free? And what are the
What
resources?
type of, sorry, when you say
Composting.
bin, that means everything to me.
Personal composting.
Brown bins?
Personal composting. bins.
She's not gonna know what that is.
Containers.
Yeah.
Right.
Kitchen containers for free. For some elected officials have been giving them out for free, and a few of our community events, we don't have those posted at the moment, we're giving them out as well. Otherwise, use plastic bags on your counter.
And for the buildings?
For the buildings? Are the kitchen containers we're talking about?
Well, the bins that they're supposed to collect the compost in, you're gonna find them.
So a brown bin.
Yes,
No one gets that for free. I missed that opportunity a while ago. Nobody. Buildings, individuals, no.
October it ended,
So there was a program that
Okay.
ran for.
And then what exercises have been added, to combat rodents and pests?
For, in general, or with compost?
With
compost.
Well, separating it out is always helpful from the rest of your garbage. You're putting it in a container. That is very helpful as well.
No, what additional exercises have been added to combat pests and rodents?
By the Department of Sanitation,
Yes.
enabling, making compost mandatory and making containerization mandatory.
So,
Well, that's the newest thing we've been doing. I don't know how many months ago.
Previously was in a
but
bag.
they're just gonna go with the container.
And now there's, will be the field.
There's no mitigation of grasses.
Thank you.
No,
Susan,
they're
for that.
Potential now.
This way, there is a mitigation of that. I know, Jared, but.
Wendy?
So
Yes.
I'm just curious,
I
when they
know.
come out to do the enforcement, you know, are you actually going through regular garbage and seeing that there's compost mixed in there? Or are you actually just seeing if there's a bin that's being used? Like, if, you know, not everybody is composting in the building and a lot of people are still putting in the garbage, but some people are composting. Is that good enough for the building, or are you doing more of a, you know, really checking it? Like, you know, like, how does that work? And then on a separate note, I know this is residential, but what are you doing for businesses as well? Because I kind of feel like, you know, catering and restaurants and that type of thing, like, that's a much bigger issue.
Alright, so the first part, if we see, it's not just that you don't have to do curbside composting to compost, because you can still use food scrap drop-off sites. Like our orange bins on the corner going to Green Market. So that's fine, composting itself is just mandatory. If in the black bag, if we look, which we can, and I see banana peels in there, you can get a ticket.
So the black bag is the garbage bag.
Black, no,
Right,
sorry.
regular trash.
Me,
No,
that's
I
regular trash.
know, yeah.
Correct. For the businesses piece of that, I don't pick up their garbage, but not every single business has to, it's mandated to separate their organic. It depends on the blueprint of their restaurant or business, what have you. Depending on how big it is, that is if they have to separate their organics. I do not have the number in my head. It is on the website. If you'd like to get my contact info from Zach or Lucy, then you can follow up with me and I'll get that from my colleagues in the Bureau of Commercial Waste.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justine?
Thank you, sorry, I got a quick one. Thanks so much for presenting. My question is, from the website, you pick up once a week from different locations in Manhattan.
And you have.
Pick up what?
Sorry, we're all talking compost, sorry, compost.
Right, I'm picking up compost, you're picking up compost. What are you talking about?
No, the bins, the brown bins that are outside.
Your collection service.
Collection service.
Week, the same day as your recycling, sorry.
Same days, okay, yeah, sorry. Is there any way to do it more frequently? Because that might, if in fact it becomes a rat problem, would that be something we could even ask for?
That is an incredible flag.
What's that mean?
That's a
That
really
means I don't run aspirations and I can't say if we're gonna, at the moment, there is no plan to increase service for any waste stream. That I know of right now.
Okay.
So far, we gotta make sure people compost first before I'm adding.
Well, that's the dilemma. I mean, living in a high-rise apartment building, listening to the feedback and the pushback from people in the building, well, I'll do it, but you can't expect everybody to do it. It's like, it's the law, just do it. It's simple and easy. But anyhow, part of the things that they then are concerned about is the rats and the vermin and whatever else, the pests.
Got it.
And we'll see.
Would
Susan
we
says
get
it's working
a
with,
second bin?
or more than one, yeah.
And that is, you are supposed to, property owners are responsible to have enough bins to
Yeah, we
accommodate
have
all the garbage
multiple
that you
bins.
have.
We have multiple bins and they're not overflowing, sadly.
Yeah. Good and bad.
Okay.
Right.
That's, Alice, you're next.
I really had the bins, the brown bins, they were stolen twice. So we then just got a black bin and then we took the compost sticker on it. I assume that's good.
That's more than good, that's right.
But then we lost that bin and somebody said, well, just put it out in a plastic bag. Is that will get fined?
Goodness, no, yeah, you will get a fine for that.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing that could be in clear plastic bags is recycling and yard waste.
Yard waste, okay.
Food scraps has to be in a bin,
Got it.
but the recycling and yard waste can go in a clear plastic bag curbside,
In a bin, like when you're putting it out for sanitation to pick it up.
the compost.
Yeah, I've always gone.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Garbage in my head right now.
That's fair.
It's rolling around in there, correct. To me, was when you're giving it to me, that's curbside, correct.
Okay, Eric?
So in Alice's case, because I've heard other people have the same situation, what happens when it's frequently stolen? I mean, it's unfair to expect somebody to, keep on purchasing them. It's an unfair burden. Like, does the sanitation, can they create a state, watch it, or if it happens so frequent? But
Security cameras.
it's not fair to a person to have to replace the bins frequently.
We ask that if your property is stolen, that you call 911.
Yeah.
I'd be unable to stake out your apartment building and watch your bins, but I apologize, that is the answer. As a property owner, any property owner, regardless of the size of the building, it's your responsibility to maintain your property and to have enough, and have bins for any mandate or rule or law that the city imposes on you.
Betty,
Can businesses write their address on the brown bin?
Businesses, yes. Residents,
No residents.
yes. Yes, please do.
Plus attractiveness.
Yeah, we tried that, anyway.
Yeah, some people just like
they're cute.
that's
All right. Any other questions from Marissa? And thank you for coming. Because you've been absolutely.
Yes,
worth the pressure.
Thank you
Always.
very much for coming.
All right.
Yeah, here too.
All right, so with that, at 6:44, we close the public hearing. And with no other public items to do, we're moving straight to the business session. Okay, all right, so we're going to do the adoption of the March 2025 minutes. Do I hear a
Motion to adopt.
and seconded? This is a roll call vote for attendance, so Brendan, are you taking it away or is it Mimi?
The voter accepted. All right, and Marissa. Cool. Blank.
Blank, yes.
Thank you. Brown Kennedy. Cameron.
Cameron, yes.
Thank you. Cassell.
So, yes.
Thank you. Chang.
And yes.
Thank you. Chapman.
Chapman, yes.
Thank you. Charcudian.
Charcudian, yes.
Thank you. Cole.
Cole, yes.
Thank you. Coleman.
Yes.
Thank you. Mormon.
Mormon, yes.
Thank you. Pucha.
Pucci, yes.
Thank you. Curtis. Flores.
Flores, yes.
Thank you. Flynn, yes. Friedman. Thank you. Goldstein.
Goldstein, yes.
Thank you. Goodkind. Hernandez. And Ershad. James. Okay, thank you. Canal. Cabell. Lerner.
Lerner, yes.
Thank you. Lynn. Lyon.
Wait.
No, it's not mine.
Meltzer.
Yes.
Thank you. Minsley.
Yeah.
Morris. Powell. Bendia. Bushma, you need to be on camera also. To vote. All right, never mind.
Come back to him.
Portia Corey.
Portia Corey, yes.
Thank you. Rossi.
Rossi, yes.
Thank you. Scott.
Scott, yes.
Thank you. Shear.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you. Star.
Star, yes.
Some. Sorry, Bearson. Pearson.
Your son.
Terry. Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you. Townley.
Conley, yes.
You.
You, yes.
Thank you. Zelter. All right.
Bushma,
No.
I'll have to. All right, moving on, we have our updates from our elected officials. I don't know if Carlos is here from Coleman's office, and I don't see him online. So we will move on to Dan from Senator Kavanaugh's office.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see you tonight. Happy birthday.
I'm not gonna, you guys are on a roll tonight, so I won't stop you from that. But I did want to, my coworker Sharif is here. He represents CB2, neighbors to the north, that area in there. He also works with me a lot on OCM stuff and the Route 9A project. So I just wanted you all to meet him. It's wonderful. I also wanted to lift up an event that we're doing. We're going to be doing an event on May 15th. We don't have a location yet, but it's with the Public Utility Law program project, Public Utility Law Project. And it's going to be like a one-stop shop for utilities. People can bring in their bill. Con Ed will be there. City and state agencies will be there to try to troubleshoot. And so when I have more details, I will send them to Tammy and Zach and get them all to you. And then Sharif was also organizing an event on May 4th.
It's a very serious event. This one is going to take place in CB2, but everyone's welcome to come to it. It's a pet adoption event with ACC. So they're going to have their mobile adoption van out there with cats and dogs. So you can show up there. We're going to be there in the park from 12 to 4 on the south side of Washington Square Park. So yeah, please should come out. Hopefully we don't get rained out like we did last year.
Great. Yep, and our boss is still up in Albany trying to get the budget done. So no update there, unfortunately. I know I'm working with a lot of you on different things and we'll be in touch offline. So yeah, we'll take questions and get there.
I'm gonna start with one question or comment that came up last night in environmental.
Yeah.
I'd certainly like to push the senator to ensure that there's money in the state budget, who's been suspiciously quiet for Lower Manhattan. Period, full stop. Don't need to say anything more than that. But we're really looking for 15 to 50 mils somewhere from the state because the city and the feds aren't nearly as likely as they used to be. Thank you. John Scott, I think your hand was up.
Yeah, so last year we tried to get the bill Screen 3 passed where we raised the limit. It's now at 50,000. What is the progress on that? And has any numbers came up on what he's working on?
Yeah, sure. So we do have a bill that would raise the limit. I'm not, do you know where it is in?
Yes,
Right now?
yeah, so the bill that we have right now, it's in the aging committee, in the Senate. And they would raise it to 67,000, and then every year after that, it would tie to the consumer price index, so that it goes with inflation. So right now it's in committee, and I think, you know, the big priority right now is like trying to get this budget done. That's several weeks overdue. But that's gonna be something that we're looking at, as we have the last month of session here.
It's something we're very much.
It's a priority.
Every month I'm gonna be pushing for that. Who is the chair of the Asian Committee?
I don't know who the chair is off the top of my head, but yeah, I can look it up for you.
All right.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's for stabilization?
Yes, it's not only stabilization, Gateway, Independence Plaza comes under a provision, but it's the whole city screen being raised from
I got it.
50,000 to 67.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question there?
Justine?
Following up on that question, so when you're evaluating the income levels, do you also look at assets that are held and what assets? Like, is it 401ks, pensions, what's the deal?
I think that there was a Kruger bill about this, right?
Yeah, Senator Kruger passed legislation last year, I think actually 2 years ago, and then passed a revised version last year to change the calculations on what we're counting as income for those brain injury and Shiki and Dahi programs for the homeowners. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what the calculations are currently when it comes to assets. Again, we can give you that information though.
Because, yeah, what I'm saying is not the income from the assets, because
Yeah.
to me, that would just be
But
the
the assets
income.
themselves.
The assets themselves, yeah, if you are lucky enough to have $1 million in your IRA or your 401k.
It's only
assets-
when you take it out, the RMD.
Well, does it count for screen and DRI?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
The RMD counts as
Yes,
income.
not the asset. Only.
For
the-
affordable housing, that asset, I believe, counts to put you outside of being qualified for affordable
Well,
housing,
they'll-
which is different than screen and DRI. And I really
Right.
think that that should be considered, especially in Manhattan.
They'll get you that information.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Alex, and then Jared.
Dan, when are we gonna hear from, the borough-based jail?
Yeah, so I think that we can start reconvening once construction is a little bit more, once there are actually some dates for that, but also we can have a conversation if we think that it's worth meeting over the boring and kind of free work. And we should get together with that, but I think that.
I think that you want to be getting together certainly before construction with the design and the community's involvement with that. So, yeah, I would say, I don't know, I think I'm thinking probably a lot of people here, the more the better. Earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would be great.
So yeah, I'll email you some dates.
Yeah, suspiciously quiet, I would say.
Yeah.
Jared.
Is there a bit more complete numbers? I'll see, otherwise I'll direct this.
Yes.
Now I'll save my question.
And Tammy, can I ask one question about
Yes.
Battery Park City? Thank you. So going to the Battery Park City bill about the condo owners and 150% of AMI, where does that stand? How are you what response are you getting from the, assembly members? I've spoken with Charles Fall's office and I know I've spoken to you about it. Where do we stand? Because the Battery Park City Committee is gonna pick it up in our next meeting.
Oh, good. Yeah,
So yeah, we're gonna hope that you're gonna be able to come, both you or someone. from your
yeah,
office.
maybe Hallie too.
Yeah, as many people as you can get, and also from Assemblymember Fall's office.
Yeah, sure.
But yes, from Fall's office, and then if Grace Lee, it's not her district, but it would be great to get their support.
Yeah, I mean, it's still something that we're trying to press through.
It's really important for the few people that you're gonna be helping, it's a really important bill.
I know it. Yeah, and it came up at the Gateway Tenants Association.
It does, right, exactly. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Anybody have questions online for Kavanaugh's team?
Tabby, just quick.
Yes, Jess.
On that 150% bill, what happened with that? I don't remember what happened last cycle, because we've been talking about
I
that.
think that it didn't pass through the assembly.
Yeah, they never even put it in the assembly. It never got out of committee in the assembly because they were so bogged down in the budget,
Yeah.
which shockingly they are again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why. So the Senate passed it 100%, is what I thought. But it didn't get out of assembly, so it couldn't.
That was our problem.
So, anybody else have any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Feel free if you'd like to do a pet day in CB1, we'll find you a spot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to take that up with it, so.
I got you.
And you got me, there we go. Maybe I can get my husband to let me get puppy.
Oh, nice. I got two for you.
Again.
That are not puppies, if they can pretend.
Alrighty, so that brings us to Tracy from Assemblymember Glick's office.
Hi, I'm Tracy from Government. What's up?
Hi, Tracy.
We're in Albany, working on the budget, and some great frustrations for all of us. We have two new pieces of legislation to highlight. One is the governor became the assembly sponsor of a bill that would prohibit the use of PFAS or whatever chemicals in certain consumer products like textiles, drugs, cookware, and dental floss. So that's a nice fun bill on the site to have. We also just introduced a bill to reauthorize the police, school zone speed camera program. That's up for reauthorization every 5 years. So it's going to do that again. This new authorization includes a new provision which will allow the DOT to investigate speeders who have obscured license plate or ghost plate. So that's a new enhancement that we think will be useful. More locally, we've been trying for several weeks to get clarity from the FDNY about the waivers they've granted for roadside dining structure. I just heard from them finally today at 5 o'clock, and they still didn't really answer any of our questions. So we will continue to look for clarity there. I don't think that's a tip. I'm hugely coming for you, but we are concerned about their lack of clarity and transparency on that. And then I just made a couple of notes very quickly based on what we've discussed so far. Tammy, your question about money for Lower Manhattan. I don't have anything specific for you except to say that I know that earlier in the year, shortly after the inauguration in January, Assemblymember Flynn was pushing the state to set aside some money that we might need to use for any kind of FEMA-related expenses, school administration, like that. I don't know that how successful that's been, but it's certainly been complicated for her because we're concerned about federal dollars being withheld. So I can get clarity on whether to change the budget with some of that.
So sorry.
Last month, we were out.
Emergency calls.
The November something proposed to add psychiatric beds to their file. We were asked about the response to that. And she did point out she wouldn't be opposed to such a plan. She is concerned about staffing capacity. And just as a general reminder, we can sometimes we run down the conversation. Anytime we're creating a plan to increase hospital beds, we also need to account for additional staffing, and that's what we spend. Should be a priority in that conversation. Just to point that out. With that, we'll take questions. I do have the questions from your summary.
Yeah. Jared, you can go first, and then we're gonna do John Scott and then Rosa, so we're gonna flip back the room.
I've got two questions, one relating to someone, Master, the ability to investigate ghost footage. If they also consider an enhanced ability to investigate individuals with excessive amount of violations, like that incident in Brooklyn.
There are a few other bills. I don't think, I don't have a specific answer, but on the school camera program in school zones that currently exist, the new bill does not include, there are escalating penalties, but I think separate from that, there's a bill that's been introduced this session that I would propose on that would go after what become super speeders, and that is people who have had multiple tickets and offenses. I don't know what the penalty is, if it's a loss of license, but there is a separate bill that is doing that.
Then my other question was, the New York Privacy Act, not Freedom Spot. My understanding is that it passed the Senate last year, but did not pass the Assembly. And that is the bill that would bring New York in line with other states like California, for example, that gives us consumers, individuals, the ability to request that our data be deleted by data brokers and other similar companies that are really trading our personal information properly. My understanding is that it did not advance in the Assembly, and it's sort of sitting there.
I don't know anything about that, but I can find out and get back to you. Do you happen to know who the co-sponsor is? Okay. I mean, I'm just.
Oh, no, I'm not trying to put you on the.
On our committee or.
John Scott, you're next.
Yes, a number of months ago, we had a meeting about the 90-story building.
Yes.
And you brought to our attention that you had information about environmental stuff that other communities done. I would like us to get that to our environmental committee. I think it's imperative for our environmental committee to look at stuff like this. And if you can facilitate it with our district manager, I would appreciate it.
Great, yes, I will certainly do that.
It brings me to Rosa is next.
Thank you.
Hi.
So number one was that when we're talking about funding for urgent need, I think we found out, and Alice, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Rosa, yeah, I can't hear you.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Alice, but I believe we have a $50 billion hole on our Five Eyes Seaport Resiliency Project to move it forward in design, and that's an absolutely critical issue for us. We have nothing protecting us currently between VMCR and the battery. So recognizing that the federal government is not stepping up here, the next storm, there's going to be a problem. Is that something that we can get help from, actually from the state? And so I'm asking all their state representatives now that I'm thinking about it, to step up to basically fill that hole. And at the very least, if we can design the solution while we're waiting for potentially a change at the federal level, then we could be shovel ready, once there is a change. I guess that's number one. And then number two is yes to the mental housing beds. We do need wraparound. We can't just invest in the capital and not recognize, as you are pointing out very rightly, that we need to actually provide the staff who provide the care, because the empty rooms are absolutely worthless to us. So the solution has to incorporate both. That's the only way it works. So if we have the space and we can take advantage of it and update it for today's needs, then we need this space to be updated and we need the staffing to make it happen. So whatever we are able to do at funding at all levels, obviously we have a mental health crisis on our hands in the city. We see that every single day as we walk around our streets. We would really love your help in addressing that.
Which I'm gonna tie to what Rosa said, just to be able to say there is a location on Randall's Island that's only 10% used. You know, it would seem that
yeah,
there's just so many logical things that are going in a way that makes no sense with the city these days and the state. Why we would let a hospital in our neighboring CB close when they have mental health beds. Why we're underutilizing the place on Randall's Island and all still complaining about the problem without having action taken is a little, by the state, who can really do something, is distressing.
Am I to answer?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You want me to answer about?
Please, please do.
Answer both. Well, to answer the question of the hospital, and my partners here from the other offices are at this coalition as well, we have spent the better part of the past 2 years meeting frequently with the governor's office, including Catherine Garcia, who's the director of state operations, and the State Department of Health, and the CEO of Mount Sinai Hospital. And we are all incredibly frustrated that Mount Sinai was permitted to close the hospital. So we're trying to figure out, we just were working on a letter with a list of specific requests and demands last week to the Department of Health about what to do next, recognizing what a loss that is to the community. So I don't know how to convey to you that there were like 12 elected offices, city, state, and federal partners, all of Lower Manhattan, working on this for 2 years, and we weren't able to save the hospital. It's a great frustration, but we do know how important that is. And we are still trying to figure out some other ways to, we can't keep Mount Sinai there, that's a done deal, but whether there are other ways to meet the health and emergency needs of Lower Manhattan residents. It's really top of mind for all of the offices. So that may not be helpful to hear, but the frustration to us as well with the governor. Not interested. And then the other topic,
The resiliency funding.
Resiliency funding, thank you. I could look into that and find out. Our office is very focused on the west side, so I don't have the specifics about how the seaport is being funded. I'm happy to talk with my colleagues in the other offices and see if there's some advocacy in the state budget that's being done right now. I just don't have complete knowledge of that.
So I guess that's a Dan question.
Well,
Is there something happening on the west side resiliency we should know about?
Aren't you?
No, there isn't. And in fact, if you go to a CB2 meeting, everybody's pretty frustrated there that there is no resiliency work being done.
Yeah.
That's what has to be.
Stop.
No, right,
After Rosa is Justine, and then I think Jess had his hand up. Justine?
Thank you. No, I do have to. So I just want to go back to the bill for, that I'm going to call Battery Park City Bill, because it's really what it pertains to, for both eligible homeowners and eligible renters in Battery Park City. And in the Senate, it's passed and it's been reintroduced again, and I would imagine it would pass. In the Assembly, it has not gotten to a vote because it hasn't gotten out of committee. Should Assemblymember Fall be able to get it out of committee to get onto a vote, I would ask for Deborah Glick's support in the bill because she used to represent North Battery Park
Right.
City. And, you know, again, it'll help a few people, but it will be helping people stay in their homes. And that's what I'd be asking for. And if you need the information about the bill, I could tell, at least I could tell you the Senate number.
Okay.
Okay? Thank
If you have the Senate number handy, I'll take it right now.
I do.
If
Give
you
me a
don't, that's
second.
okay. I'm gonna keep everybody.
I think it's, Senate 1462.
And Charles Hall is carrying it in the assembly?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Would that be right, Dave?
231231. Text now and we'll send you a bottle of vitamin D3 absolutely free. Text.
Do we know why we put that person over? Okay. I'm not knowing why that is. I don't know what they're calling you.
Was there anything else?
Anybody else have anything for Tracy? Okay, and I see no hands online. So I want to say thank you very, very much for coming. It's lovely to see you in person. And, all right, so I know we have anybody here from Assemblymember Lee's office?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone tonight. I'll just give some updates from the Office of Assemblymember Lee. First off, Alex. Yeah, for those who don't know, my name's Alex. Assemblymember Lee's Chief of Staff, Fraser.
Alex Fraser. Okay.
Yeah. And happy to give out my card afterwards to anyone who would like.
Okay.
But yeah, Assemblymember Lee's been in Albany a lot. Obviously, the budget negotiations are ongoing and taking a ton of time. She keeps having to go up to vote on the budget extenders, which is a bummer because normally during the recess in between when the budget's supposed to be passed and then going back for the final leg of passing legislation, she's able to be in the district more. So she did want to actually come here tonight, but she had to be stuck in Albany again, which is unfortunate, but just I'll start with legislative updates. We recently introduced the STOP Act with Senator Krueger, which is legislation designed to prevent public officers, elected officials from misusing taxpayer funds for their personal legal matters. So this is a direct response to more than $60 million in taxpayer funds the state has spent on Andrew Cuomo, geez. Put the L. Anyways, and his administration's ongoing legal troubles. Additionally, we've been doing a lot of advocacy around the budget. So first off, Assemblymember Lee most recently rallied in Albany for $1 billion of additional childcare funding in the state budget to avoid a severe shortfall that will hurt working parents, providers, and most of all, children. I was there with her in Albany. They actually got a huge blow-up baby that then started like deflating in the midst of the press conference. So it was kind of like a good symbol to show what would happen if we don't get this extra $1 billion. And then also recently, we hosted a press conference at actually Gouverneur Gardens with Senator Kavanaugh, and that was addressing our fight to cut the Mitchell-Lama shelter tax in half, which would free up hundreds of thousands of dollars for Mitchell-Lamas across the city to address critical repairs while keeping rents affordable. And we've also been on the forefront of advocating for money to be put in budget to remedy SNAP theft that has occurred. We've seen like a lot of constituents come to us saying that their SNAP card has been stolen. So that's been a legislative priority for the member. Additionally, I would say we have more legislation and updates we'll give, but those, I guess, were the last month. Some of the bigger things we've been working on as well. And then hopefully next month we'll have a budget so we can come and speak to you just about like each of the buckets and what those bills do and how that would affect Community Board 1.
Okay, awesome. Justine has her hand up.
I'm just gonna be quick and just say what I just said to Tracy. Please support or ask Assemblymember Lee to look into and support Senate Bill 1492, I think it was. And it's helping out Battery Park City particularly, but Gateway Plaza, as John said. And the
Raise the
Thunderbolt.
seat from 5 to 9.
No, not that one. That
That's
would be, that's another fall bill.
Okay.
You know, this is about actually giving some affordability protection to people whose income comes underneath 150% of AMI. And
Okay.
it
Yeah, let
explains
me-
it. I'm not gonna go into the whole thing, but it's Senate Bill 1462, sorry, 1462. And it's about affordability.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely. bring
And
it
that
up.
would be by law, yeah. So would love more seats and more representation on the Battery Park City Authority Board, but I'm pushing what I think we could get. And I think we should,
Well, yeah,
really
I
should
know
get this.
at a previous meeting, you'd asked about co-sponsoring the
Yes.
legislation, the other one that
Correct.
Paul represents, so I, ongoing process, I'm gonna review that and hopefully,
Okay, sorry.
definitely we'll have updates for you on that.
That's
in the
fair, but the affordability one is much more, I
Okay,
think it's more passable, and I also think it's more urgent.
got it.
Okay. Rosa?
I'm just going to underline that we need state support for extra funding for the resilience projects on the east side between the batteries and BMCR, so that we can keep the design going at the very least, so we can be shovel ready when the federal government becomes the federal government. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, hearing and seeing none, thank you, Alex, thank you very much for coming. Eve, from the mayor's office, do you have any report you'd like to give out? I think she jumped off. See if she's an attendee, you know? She's still there. Oh, well, she's gone. Oh. No, that's fine. Okay, Councilmember Martin's office, Max, you're with us?
Yep. Hey, everyone. You can all hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Hey, everyone. So Max Deutsch from Councilmember Christopher Marte's office. So I'll start with some legislative updates. So as you know, we very tragically had a family of 4 tourists who died in a helicopter crash a couple weeks ago. And so, right, this was a very preventable tragedy, right? There are policies that if they had been in place would have stopped this, right, tourist helicopter from going off in this heliport that was in, in Lower Manhattan. And so the council member and other elected officials have been really vocal the past few weeks on the press and within the council on greater regulation on the tourist, kind of the non-essential helicopter industry. And kind of thankfully, today the council just scheduled a hearing on a number of the bills to kind of amend regulation over helicopters. So we're kind of hopeful that, right, we can at least get some movement to prevent another tragedy from happening. Next week is May Day, and so Thursday, May 1st at noon, the council member will be holding a rally outside City Hall with home attendants and retirees, kind of our two big bills together, calling on the council to both pass our bill to end the 24-hour workday for home attendants and to pass our legislation to protect retirees from being forced off traditional Medicare and forced on Medicare Advantage. And so we're really hoping, right, to create a coalition of here and again retirees and home attendants, to really kind of bring these two different labor issues together. And on that note, you might have heard about this retiree issue. If you're a public sector worker, if you're a retiree, there's been a lot of misinformation going out. Different unions are telling their active employees, their retirees, different things. And so we're going to be hosting kind of a public sector worker healthcare town hall on Tuesday, May 20th at 6 p.m. At the Manny Cantor Center on the Lower East Side. And so more details that we'll send out to the community board to send out next week. But we hope to have kind of a panel of experts who can speak on the issue of retiree healthcare, of public sector healthcare, so we can really clear up, what we're trying to do with our bill and, what's happening with the switch to Medicare Advantage. On land use, so as you may have heard, the mayor has announced a goal of building 100,000 new apartments in Manhattan, part of what he's calling the Manhattan Plan. And so while not much has been kind of revealed or announced about it, we do know that the mayor plans to build these units through upzonings and dispositions of city property, similar to what we're seeing at 100 Gold Street. And so, what we're seeing from everything that's been released of the Manhattan Plan, there's not a single mention of affordability in it. And so until we really understand what affordability is going to be part of this Manhattan Plan, the council member has been working with local organizations and advocates to push back against what we see as a developer-driven agenda here, a developer-driven plan, to push for community-driven planning that preserves affordable housing and kind of so we can push back on the real estate industry and demand more affordability from them as this Manhattan Plan is further developed. And again, we know that the administration is planning to do more outreach and release more details on the Manhattan Plan in the next few months. And so, we'll be paying attention and, look forward to working with you all to kind of keep you updated on what's happening, let you know, when the next, public comment period is and whatnot. On the budget side, so we had a participatory budgeting this month. And so I want to thank everyone who volunteered, who voted, to thank Bob and Manhattan Youth for hosting us, as a voting site a few days. And so we don't have the final results yet, but we do know that we got almost 2,700 votes online, which put us fourth in the whole council. And we're still waiting on a few hundred paper ballots to be counted. And so if, we're hoping we'll get in the top 3 in the council, and then, in the next couple of weeks, we will know who the winners are. But again, if you want any questions, you want any updates before we announce that, feel free to reach out to our office. Our budget director, Andy, can talk to you and explain what's happening there. And then lastly, just a few community updates. So we hosted a Local Law 97 info session. Thank you for those who attended that. The council member went on a walkthrough of Barnett Newman Triangle with Alice Blank and the Parks Department. And afterwards, because of, that walkthrough, the Parks Department cleaned up all the litter and trash that was in the triangle, removed a lot of these overgrown, dirty bushes, and they're going to be replacing them now with new planters, new plants. And kind of alongside that, the council member is working on a meeting with DEP, the Parks Department, and DOT, who all have various jurisdictions over the triangle, so we can start creating a long-term plan for Barnett Newman Triangle and how to beautify and expand it and add more green space. And then lastly, just a fun event. This Friday, the 25th, the Councilmember Marte will be hosting with the Parks Department a free roller skating event in Haney Playground, which is on Cherry Street between Market and Catherine. So a little bit out of Community Board 1, but it's open to the public. There's activities for games and kids, free roller skates. It's a fun time. It's one of my favorite events of the year. And so just kind of, the way it works, from 4 to 5:30 is the kids' family time. There'll be games, kids roller skates. And then from 6 to 7 p.m. is an adult roller skating session. So if you and your kids want to come, you can come in the beginning. If you're an adult who wants to roller skate, again, it's free. The skates are provided. The park's open for that. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I have a question.
Okay, we're gonna go around the room. I'm gonna start, and then we're gonna go Joel and Eric. Max, my first question is about resiliency funding. We need resiliency funding in the city budget. We talked about it last night at environmental. I'm happy to go over the recording with you if you'd like. It's pretty much somewhat in the beginning, somewhat at the end. But we really need city council and we need our state representatives to step up and ensure that we have enough to get the Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project done, period. That will give us some protection a little further south of the Brooklyn Bridge, and then be able to help fund the creation of the plans and to move along so it doesn't stop in its track, the Five Seaport Master Plan. So
Definitely.
again,
No, agreed. So, let's talk tomorrow because I heard Rosa mention that's the first I heard of the funding cut. So let's talk tomorrow and we can work on that.
Yep, I'm happy to set up a call with Alexis and others and Alice. All right, Joel, you first.
Yeah, sorry, I want to go back to the helicopters for a moment. This board was very much against the helicopters, especially after 34th Street was closed down. We had tons of meetings about the helicopters. And Margaret Chin was out in front, and also, I'm not sure what committee was, Megan, Liz, myself. It was the EDC that refused to back off because it was a money maker for the city. But we actually wanted the EPA to do pollution testing down there. Brooklyn was complaining about the helicopter flight. We were all complaining about the noise and the hours. And the only thing we were able to accomplish was getting Sunday and holidays out. But even with that, they circumvented it with saying private tours and also operate on Sunday, even though we said holistically you can't. So they found a way around it. But it was the EDC, meeting after meeting, because it was a moneymaker, that would not let go of this, especially after 34th Street closed. It was Brooklyn neighbors complaining to the city, Hanover Square, 55 Water Street, everybody about the dangers of the helicopters, and nobody listened to us. So I think with your comment, which was just unfortunate, it was a terrible accident. It was the public officials that really didn't back us up, except Margaret Chin, about getting the helicopters out of downtown.
So
Exactly, yes.
yes, the only thing I will put a caveat to that, Joel, because our board is on recent resolutions within the last year supporting the transition for Pier 6 and commercial helicopters to electric EV tolls. So the issue that we're having and the issue that remains, the one that no one on this board has been able to wrap around, is the tourism helicopters that are like the mosquitoes on top of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's not throw the baby out with bathwater and find a way, because That's the problem. We know we can't send them all to New Jersey because then they'll just come unregulated back here. So it's about finding a compromise that can work. I mean, sorry for the people who work at that company, but it's better it's better that they were shut down for their problems.
Yeah.
So
Can I just also add?
after Joel, who was next?
No, on that topic,
No, you're,
yeah.
let's let Madam
to add-
Sanchez.
Right, I just want to add that no other major city in the world has helicopters touring tourists around. Not only is it an unregulated industry, but it is, the noise is unbearable. Brooklyn Heights is destroyed. I mean, try going to those piers. An employee told me that he had to take 3 months off, the arborist, because he couldn't stand, he was so affected by the helicopter noise.
Yeah.
So no news to us, the residents who live there.
Yeah, no, I would just agree 100% with what Joel said. Yeah, again, I think there's various actors, right? EDC as owning a heliport is an actor. That's again 100% part of this, and we are working on kind of other things there. But yeah, I was just referencing the legislation that's now again it's been kind of sitting in the council for 3 years. Part that would address aspects of these. But no, you're 100% right that EDC is one of the most important actors here. And we're not trying to absolve them of kind of the changes they have to do. Just on the council side, what we're working on now is getting these legislations passed. I don't remember every single bill that was added to the hearing, but I know there's stuff about the noise, resolutions about New Jersey, and I think also some stuff about the electric vehicles and the non-tourism. So I think, again, it is really unfortunate that it takes a tragedy for the council to actually move these bills to a vote. But no, 100% agree that, again, there's, a lot of people failed. And I think hopefully now we can at least get these changes made.
Jared, you're next.
This is more just a comment. It's not necessarily directed at you, Max, but I'm just thinking, because standing here, all the different topics that have come up tonight, the helicopters, the homeless shelter, the closing Beth Israel, lack of affordable housing, the lack of beds at the hospital rental asylum. Simply to say, I think what you're hearing is that people are frustrated that everything is about profitability.
That's right.
And that cannot be the sole deciding factor in these public policy issues.
Thank you. Very well said.
Wait, Jared, wait, I missed what the key part that Jared, you said. I heard everything until you said the actual issue.
The bit is that it can't all be about money. Not everything can be about profits. And all these, I think we lost them, but that's what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, more questions for council member Eric.
Yeah, hi, Max. Eric,
Hey.
would Councilmember Marte consider sponsoring legislation to have a 500-foot distance of homeless shelters from schools with students under 18 years of age?
So no, so I would say, right, as we've explained before, that a policy like that, right, in a city in a borough like Manhattan and a city like New York would, right, disqualify shelters in a large swaths of the city.
But then you're de facto supporting this shelter at Peck Slip. Okay.
But you have not, see, I think that's the problem, Max, is Councilmember Marte is on record citing that this is an inappropriate location. So, it's not a far road to be able to say that there should be some sighting distance requirements for shelters. So he's on record saying this is not well cited, it's attached to the school, it should be further away.
But then how far?
How far and
Right,
make a proposal.
I know, you're saying 500 feet.
If they find.
But you're saying 500 feet, the issue I'll say, right, because Eric, I'll say, right, you've in these meetings, you've proposed 4 different, I can think of 3 or 4 different distances, right? How do you choose a distance?
This is the second.
Second.
But Max, it doesn't matter what Eric's saying, this board is on record asking for sighting distances.
Yeah.
And asking for some thought being made to when you're siting a shelter, it is not simply a real estate deal that ends at the sidewalk. It is about how it fits in the public realm. And all of the emergency orders absolutely pull anything about that. To be able to tell a teacher at the Peck Slip School that you must walk 200 feet away to smoke a cigarette because it's not allowed, to tell businesses, liquor stores, and cannabis stores that you have to be 500 feet away, and yet install a facility that has a smoking lounge underneath the windows of the school is absolutely insane. So don't argue with us about how far. What we're asking the council member for is to figure out how to do this with the other city council members. Because
I mean, I could take that back, but right, what I'll say, right, Peck Slip is a very unique situation. And so again, I think I'll say the concern is legislating based off the single case. Again, I'll take it back to the council member, but right, there is not a single other situation like the Peck Slip situation. And so, right, you could pass a bill saying what happened to Peck Slip can't happen. But again, would that change, right? It hasn't happened before. We don't know if it's going to happen again. So again, I think it gets very tricky when you talk about, right, legislation on the siting because, right, each case is different. Situations are different. So again, I'll take it back to the council member. I'll discuss it. But I that's just the concern. Again, as I've researched it, as I've talked about it with other people, that's the concern
You know what?
that we've heard.
I hear what you're saying. You know what? I guarantee you this is going to be the first of many, because this administration has not had the courtesy to come speak to the community. Letters to deputy mayors, and then deputy mayors leave, a new deputy mayor. The CAU people come every month and say, sorry, we have nothing to say to you. So we don't have any faith that this is a one-off. I guarantee, and this is where being right would be the booby prize, that this will be the first of many. Because nobody seems to give a damn to solve the problems holistically and take a look at the greater public realm. With that, who next had their hand up because I'm pissed?
And I am also
Rosa.
pissed. I'm wondering, like, as our city council member, what can you do to stop this?
Nothing, because the controller signed off on it.
So it's the controller.
It is the mayor, and the mayor alone who would make that decision, period, end of statement.
But so then how did the controller sign off on it?
Because he found no malfeasance with the contract.
So it's purely a contractual approval.
Real estate
that's
deal.
not-
It is a real estate deal. So if the mayor wants to sign off, which he clearly does, this is where it started and this is where it ended, was with the mayor's office. And so think about that quite clearly as we're coming up on mayors. Okay, it's not a city council decision. Right, it's hilarious. Anybody else have anything for Max? Anybody have hands up for Max? Okay.
Say a thanks.
Alice.
I mean, the, which is.
I'm on the phone. Can I make a comment?
Well, I'm just.
Mark, hold on, you can go after Alice.
I just want to thank.
Okay.
Councilmember
Thank you.
generally and for environmentally sort of conscientious thinking, and came out with DEP and walked and the walk over at the Rotary, and looks like DEP is actually going to do work at the Rotary. These are really, really great. Also Alberta Costudo and Finn Square, the whole sidewalk is being redone, and Wayne Park. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of green space that's happening here on Earth Day. I wanted to thank that. Sorry to have that.
Mark Amoruso, you have the last word for Max.
Okay, just a comment, general comment on the helicopter situation. I know they're small businesses, and I hate to say this, but I mean, these helicopters should not be taking off from Manhattan. I mean, the one on 34th Street, every time I drive by there and I get stuck at the light, I say a Hail Mary, because those rotors can come off on takeoff, and it's 15 feet away from everyone. So it's you know, it's really, it's just, you know, we've been, you know, we're on borrowed time with this kind of stuff as far as, you know, landing on the street or on the island. So that's my comment. It should be looked into, that they should just not have any of these helicopters flying off the piers or anything like that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the council member's position, that, you know, again, we shouldn't have non-essential helicopters coming out of the city heliports.
Okay, with that, Max, thank you very much. At 7:33, we end The
Thank you,
updates from elected officials. Mariana James, you ready to give the treasurer's report? Let's hit it.
Sure, so, the treasurer's report, there's nothing exciting, eventful about the budget this quarter. And we're well ahead of where we need to be, which brings us to Lucy reminding us that there are some allocations that we have to spend before the end of the fiscal year. Because we're that far ahead, so it's like looking into that. Now, those decisions would not be up to me, that is up to Tammy and Zach to look to see where, we could spend those funds and on what. But that was just there. We're ahead of the game, so basically, it's my report.
July 1st, that's, again.
June 30th.
And,
Okay. Rosa,
Could we have like a group sort of community building, spend time together event that's
Well-
like just not in this room or that?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, we're trying to plan, it's in my chair report, we were trying to plan something for May 4th. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough volunteers or people get it to go together, so we will not be doing something May 4th. Hopefully, we can do something maybe towards the end of June, but again, it's enough that Lucy got saddled from the hospitality committee kind of falling apart with doing pizzas and salads every month, which fell back on the office, and we just have limited resources and we need the sources of the board. Gabby.
I volunteered twice via email, never heard back.
Oh, Lucy,
Have the emails that I sent to you 3 times.
not me.
Oh.
I am not leading the hospitality committee. So.
It doesn't matter, you're having pizza every month, I have other work to do.
Perfect, I think it's perfect.
It's fine.
I didn't hear back either.
Together, find
I
dates
do
and
that. I
things.
can't even plan a kid's birthday party. It stresses me out. Excuse me. No. Oh, but, well, I mean, we are having a huge community block party on May 3rd. If everybody wanted to come, we could have a special celebration just in community.
Quick, slide that in. Oh, that was hilarious. Thank you for the treasurer's report. Let's go into Zach for his, district manager report. Zach, take it away.
Okay, so I went to a floodgate demo earlier this month, and you can see on the slide that is the floodgate at Brooklyn Bridge, Montgomery Coastal Resilience Project. Pretty cool floodgates. That's a metal deck. They flip up and down. You can see on the left, it's flipped up. On the right, it's flipped down. Takes, I don't know, about a minute, maybe less. They can change those heights to match whatever floodgate height you need. And so they're pretty cool. So as we get more resiliency down by us, that might be an option, to think about for sort of a low impact gate. They can be as long as you want, as long as they're roughly straight.
Tell us where they're sourced from.
Which company?
Yeah, where they come from.
They
No,
did
but
stay, but I
put you in
I don't.
Really, really far away. Thank you. No,
Are
seriously.
they impacted by tariffs? I don't know. Probably.
Oh, sure. No, I'm
Okay.
never asking that question this way.
Thank you.
Okay, keep
Yeah.
going.
You can get that for
The
you.
manufacturer.
So next, more helicopters. This was before the crash, was the announcement of the downtown Skyport renaming. I went to the opening with the new operators. And so, one of the big issues we've had with helicopters is noise. So there are planning to have electric helicopters here. And so I think that's something that the board will have to try to keep them on task for, because they said 2026 for electric helicopters. So as those timelines come around, the board will have to stay on top of them to make sure they're making those deadlines.
Next slide.
Next slide. Okay, so I went to a press conference, as you've heard, FEMA money from the BRIC program was cut by the president. And $40 million, $40+ million goes to Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project that's already sort of earmarked for that, slated, was planned for, and that was pulled away. So I attended this press conference with the Waterfront Alliance last week, calling for that money's return. And yes, next slide. So just a couple of updates in the streets. Hudson Street between Duane and Jay has a new roadway construction project with catch basins, and there's the construction community construction liaison if you need to contact them at all. And also DEP is doing a pump station upgrade at Canal Street adjacent to Duarte Square. And they're upgrading the 1930s pump for wastewater. There, it doubles the capacity. Next slide. You've probably heard about the 25 Water Affordable Housing Lottery. There are about 330 units that are affordable in that 1,300 unit complex. The deadline is May 5th, so spread that news to anyone who is interested. And also, again, we got a summer intern from PACE, and her name is Chi Dang, and she's going to be studying, or she specializes in data science and public data analysis. So it's going to be working with the public open data within our district and looking through it and trying to find patterns and trying to find, identify things that the board can maybe, propose as resolutions to improve issues in the district. And that's it for me.
Okay, let's keep going. We're rolling. Next slide. Okay, here's a reminder about resolutions. If your meeting is in the beginning of the month, your resolution is due within a week to the board office, not within 2 weeks, not within 24 to 48 hours prior to the board meeting. Your resolution is due within a week. So if you are the first Wednesday, Thursday, the first Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and second Wednesday, second Thursday, there's absolutely no reason that those should not be into the board office before executive. Period. End of statement. No, absolutely, positively, no way on that. This month was particularly rough. I feel bad because I was on vacation, so I wasn't hounding anybody for a whole week. Lucy was on vacation, so she wasn't hounding everybody for a week, but we shouldn't have to hound anybody. So I'm just saying it straight out. Everybody's an adult in this room. We have chairs, we have co-chairs. If you cannot manage it as a chair or a co-chair, ask somebody on the committee to do it. If you really don't think you have the time, patience, or energy to be either the chair or co-chair, let me know. Whether it's a step down for 6 months, 8 months, you want to train somebody else, term limits are coming. We need to elevate everybody else on the board. Let's ask everybody to help. That's really what this is about. Period. End of statement. If you have no reports, you have nothing but reports this month, you get 6 minutes total if you have more than 2 topics, but that's it. Next slide. I hate being a school mom, by the way. There's a reason I didn't go into teaching as a kid. All right, so it's been a busy month, it's been spring and I was away. Yes, I went, you can see at the edge of the photo that I took when Zach and I were at the helipad of their electric vehicles that they're using for last mile delivery. So it's a huge goal to be able to get electric helicopters onto electric vehicles and last mile Blue Highway into the city to get rid of more trucks, which is really awesome. The pictures on the top show the increase of going around the neighborhood and I'm getting yelled at as I'm watching the ticket hawkers standing in the streets directing people against traffic lights so they can pull them over to the side to sell them tickets. It was pretty gross, just saying. And they now set up their own kiosks because they can't get them approved and they're 100% illegal. So we'll just leave that as it is. It's been a good month for our city from the our fellows from the Fund for City of New York. Next month, Leah presented, I think, an executive this month. She'll present to the full board next month, and so will David. So look out for those coming up. We went to a ribbon cutting at World Trade Center Command. I went with Zach. Of course, we didn't take pictures because we felt it was a secure center. We should be taking pictures on the inside. But that's over in the Seaport area now. So that was on Cliff Street. So that was really nice. And it's just been, we had the Washington Street Shelter Cab meeting, which is the Community Advisory Board. If anybody wants to sit on that, please let us know. They still do not have a majority of Lower Manhattan residents in there, even though that's what we were told. They're still at like 49%. We're waiting for data. We've invited them to come to the quality of life meeting and explain that. And I'll leave that where it is. Next slide. Okay, we met with, you will have seen, with Chair Wright from OCM, which was really great. Our working group folks, Brendan and Jared were there. We had a really unbelievable meeting with Chair Wright and learned some things that, so school distancing is not only for exclusive use for schools, which confused us because we were told it was several times. So we have a follow-up letter that we're working on that'll go out tomorrow. I want to say it'll go out this week to her about outstanding questions and answers. There does seems to be a little bit of controversy and.
I'm sorry, Tammy, what did you say, school what?
Yeah. So OCM told us unless it was an exclusive use,
Yeah,
meaning that like CS 234 has its own building.
right,
So there's distancing requirements
Yeah.
from that building. But if you look at a school like Millennium, which is in an office building, there was no distancing because we were told it was a mixed use facility. So therefore it wasn't exclusive use.
right.
The first time we heard that that was an incorrect reading was from Chair Wright. So,
Gotcha.
Thank
you.
that doesn't seem to be the way that they're doing things. So we've got some follow-up letters to do and then some follow-up work with hopefully that the borough president will be able to support us in the other community boards because yeah.
Didn't they also tell us when we asked about that on a prior occasion, that the footage goes like up the building? So since like, for example, Millennium is on like the 30th floor, it wouldn't apply because it's not like the ground level, from where you measure?
Apparently, according to Chair Wright, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
It's in the building, it's in the building.
They still need to egress the building, the students.
Yeah, no, I but I'm just saying that was one of the craziest explanations that we were given at one point.
Exactly. So we've got a clarifying letter because it's,
And we have to do it quickly.
yes, agreed. We have a lot of public comments and hearings, outdoor dining, rule changes, things like that. I want to explicitly express to anybody on this board who is interested to testify for CB1. We have resolutions. All you gotta do is announce yourself. I am representing Community Board 1. This is our resolution. Here are our points. We're happy to help you. It would help the office because Zach, Lucy, Onej, Alice, and I cannot be everywhere. And again, we want the people on the board to feel ownership. So if you would like to be a part of going to any of the public hearings or testimonies, don't be shy. Ask. And Gabby, I appreciate your volunteerism. Trust me, I'm coming back to you, but I'm gonna put, can we do this on Zoom? Yeah, those can be done on Zoom. Next slide.
Tomorrow's the last day for some of the ones impacting licensing.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that one out. All right, so outdoor dining. People have been asking why they end up in quality of life and executive. Lucy?
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
People are having issues signing in, or has corrected it, please try to sign in again. I'm getting several emails and text messages, thank you.
And if you can't sign in, go to the website live.mcb1.nyc because that one definitely works. Thank you, Lucy. So here's the way it works. We do not control, surprisingly, the Department of Transportation. So they send their revocable consent, sidewalk, and roadbed when they are ready, not when the community board is ready, not on the 1st or 15th on the month, nothing. As soon as they get their side done, they send it. They send sidewalk separate from roadbed, even if the applicant is applied together. We've seen this for the entire first quarter of the year because of the deadlines that are needed. So to be proactive and reactive to make sure that we are doing the best that we can for community advocacy, it first goes to licensing if the timing works. If not, it goes to quality of life because a lot of the people are on both committees. And lastly, it would go to exec. These are all ways that we can have it either then ratified at the executive committee or voted on by the full board. What will be new based on our meeting with the SLA, which was CB 1, 2, and 3, is that we are doing a new stipulation that will be done at the same time that the businesses come for their outdoor dining. This will significantly cut down the requirements and be courteous to the businesses. They don't want to come back to us a third or fourth time. They really don't. We don't want to see them a third or fourth time. When we can see them once or see them twice and try and do a one-stop package for everything and be more efficient. So we're working on a new stipulation that'll be done at whatever committee they show up in, that they will then have to sign, which goes to the hours that they are agreeing for SLA. Because even though DOT says they could, open at 8 o'clock in the morning, you can't serve alcohol in New York City at 8 o'clock in the morning in your outdoor dining. So it's working with them and finding out the right hours and things like that. That is a new thing. Again, rule changes are going to run the same thing as revocable consent. Whenever we get them, based on the deadline, is based on the committee that it's heard. I understand that that's kind of frustrating. But I mean, hello, this is the city and this is how we are trying to react. Next slide. Any questions on that? Perfect. Okay, May 11th, we have a new farmer's market coming to Battery Park City. They'll be there Sundays by the Irish Hunger Memorial, which will be lots of fun. So if you miss the one on Saturdays in Tribeca, come to one on Sundays in Battery Park City. In the beginning of the month, May 3rd, there's a block party at Gotham Park. I didn't make my slides till afterwards, sorry, but we'll send you out notices. Landmarks land use this month. We'll hear back from the AT&T building at 33 Thomas, planning to sell some of their open space. Hang on, Brendan. We learned last night, Seaport Resiliency will have a public engagement May 14th. We hope that we can spread the word and help them get a really robust turnout. Come back to environmental protection where we're talking resiliency, and the full designs that'll be needed for how the resiliency projects will cross the battery and connect up to the Battery Park City project.
They're narrowing it down to from 3 to 1 now.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah. You'll see what you'll then. Exactly. And then we put out an email today, an official ask to the Battery Park City Authority to put increased signage for the scammers on the outside of the construction fences around the battery to work with the battery and Statue Cruises and get signage up. Do we think the signage will stay? Maybe for 25 hours, maybe if they put it higher or lower, we don't know, but there has to be something done immediately. It's pretty nasty around there. May 4th, we are not going to do first spring get together. I am sorry, but plans were not solidified fast enough, and we really would want to give everybody 2 weeks notice. So we're trying to find something that'd be family friendly, like May 3rd would be at Gotham Park, and just have people who are current and former board members come and be able to pay their way and enjoy an afternoon together. So with that, next slide. I'm done. Brendan.
I'm just gonna add Tuesday to City Hall Park, there's great market.
Yes.
There we go. So now we have Saturdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays.
Wednesdays are going away.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Wednesdays, what?
Are going away, he said.
Yeah, there used to be one at the Oculus. I heard that. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. No, that was what I was gonna say.
Yeah. All right, perfect. All righty, so let's do executive. Alice, thank you for chairing the meeting. I'm gonna let you take it away.
Okay, any
Oh,
questions?
a reminder, if you were not here or did not have your camera on for the first vote, Mimi will have to take your oral vote and your name.
My sense was that 145 Hudson and 154 Church were not, they're both sidewalk cafes, were not controversial, so we could take those together. Take it away. Any
So-
questions on these resolutions about sidewalk cafes?
Second.
Okay, so
Brown Kennedy, thank you.
And James?
James,
Thank you. And Gopal? Thank you. And, Zelter? Thank you.
Jill?
Yes. Okay, 1 second, Jill.
Amoruso? Amoruso? Okay, Pandaya?
Here,
Ushma?
yes, Ushma.
Okay, Council, thank you very much. I think those are the only ones we missed during roll call, right? Well,
I think someone just walked in.
who just walked in?
I did.
Oh,
Hernandez.
all right. And, well, you can abstain if you don't know what these are, but. Cafes for what, 501.
I'm not so sure what the name was called.
Townley, you for roll call, so you don't need to worry.
Oh, yes, I vote yes.
I vote yes too.
Okay. And, okay, Townley.
Yep.
So those, yes.
All right, perfect. She passes. Oh, wait. So this will be a vote by affirmation. Are there any no's? Are there any abstentions? Thompson opposes 154 Church. Thank you. Are there any other oppositions? Are there any abstentions? Any recusals? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Townley, you need to keep yourself muted.
It wasn't.
No, is it?
It was Emerson. Okay, we move along.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
So the next resolution certainly took a lot of time. I hope everyone had a chance to read it. But basically, the Department of Transportation is looking to place exclusive seating, allowance for exclusive seating in open streets and pedestrian plazas. Both of those terms are defined in the resolution. Open streets or closing of the street for public use, as well as pedestrian plaza. And this is the Department of Transportation's way of, I think, trying to help finance these places by allowing quite a bit of it to be privatized, so 33 to 50%. It was somewhat vague, but I think we all sussed out what was really being said. And I think generally speaking, people felt strongly, for the most part, that this was a privatization of public space, but there were lots of nuances, which I hope were captured in this resolution. And so I will happily take questions. Yeah. Jason. Thank you. What's so honest?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did my best, but I'm sure.
Yes.
I think this rule is being very misrepresented, not here necessarily, but in the public realm. There was a hysterical New York Post article about this. This already exists, right? Open streets, put aside pedestrian plazas for a second, the pedestrian plazas, we don't see much outdoor dining, at least in our district on pedestrian plazas yet. But in open streets, we've had open streets for about 5 years now, and there just isn't really any rule out there for how much of it can be used for restaurants. And in fact, according to the DOT, they've been allowing up to 80% in some cases use of the street for outdoor dining. So they wanted to formalize the open streets program, in part because people like us in the community boards have asked these questions. And so they came up with 33%, which I think is actually pretty low and a good compromise. I think that, talking about this as privatization of public space, these are streets that are used for parking and for driving. And these are spaces that have been made into public spaces by the Open Streets program. So I don't really understand a lot of this. I don't understand, like the stuff about, requiring, turning it into like for other uses. I mean, I would support open streets being used for other uses, but it's not like there are picnics and happening, and movie nights happening on these open streets. These are streets right now, and they're free.
That's not true, Jess, because we have approved open streets for JCP, who does festivals on their streets.
Yeah,
Other
that's
people have done, hold on. The applicant who came for the open street at exec specifically said, due to the low barrier that they have for open streets, they are choosing to do that instead of roadbed, because it's cheaper.
Cheaper, it's easier.
That is
less
not
rules.
a good, cheaper, easier, less rules, less costly. They don't have to take their stuff in, they don't have to break.
But-
That's not the, that's.
That's not, that most restaurants
But we're not-
way prefer to have roadway. This is a very specific amount of time, open streets, they're not as nearly as much time as would be allowed under roadway. So restaurants would love to have roadway instead of open street, but roadway has been made so complicated.
Some of the objection, just, and it is in here, is to clarify, is that this was about, it was very unusual because at the same night, for those of us who were there, we had Duane Street come, and Duane Street, a particular restaurant called Casa, they unfortunately got in the crossfire here because they were applying to have their restaurant front and use the open street of Duane Street between Hudson and West Broadway. And it really made a lot of people soul search as to why would a commercial restaurant have that ability versus just applying for a sidewalk cafe or a roadbed, which pays the city money. This is a total freebie. You don't pay the city for this. You don't pay we the taxpayers for the use of this. And that did
Big deal.
stick in someone's craw. And so I think that's where a lot of this debate comes in, and I think there are a lot of opinions on this. I will say, though, that I was stunned. And I didn't really take a position at first until I really thought about it, but 120 people had written comments to the Department of Transportation as of yesterday. And out of those, there were, I think, 113 that were just negative. We're really quite thoughtful about the position of privacy. And the 8 or 12 that were primarily bids. So I thought that was interesting, and that's why we spoke about it yesterday in the meeting. Jared.
More of a question. Is there anything about, it's just one entity that can do it? Or is there a minimum, a couple of them can benefit?
That was one of the questions, how is it fair? In other words, you have one restaurant like this restaurant, Casa, that's taking over that whole street, but there are other merchants on the street. And usually these are merchant groups that come together.
That's not.
Oh, so that's not your question?
Is there a threshold? Like,
No,
No,
and
nonprofit,
Certainly should be
group of
defined.
restaurants, any neighborhood block
I'm saying
association.
if there are
would
three
we,
restaurants in a block and all three of them want that, then that justifies potentially shutting down the block, but in that instance, it's.
It's a
just
merchant's-
Block and it's one.
It can be one restaurant
It-
applying.
but what happens if one restaurant applies, gets the whole space, and the other two want it also, and they have no room?
Have we
That's
seen
the-
that problem? Like,
Well, we haven't seen it yet, but.
on Duane, the other restaurant did have an outdoor dining last time, but they don't want it anymore.
Well, let's take, wait, this is, we're.
Right.
wait,
Then- Stop,
Well,
Jess.
theoretically-
Jared, are you done?
Yeah, basically, but what I'm saying is I think that should be a minimum
I agree with you.
percentage of the block that has to be on.
That was one of the recommendations, was that sort of an equitable solution that the DOT should look at in terms of many merchants, if you're gonna, start to consider this.
Betty had her hand up next.
There's too much misinformation.
Okay. Mariama.
So I just want to say, look, we didn't do this like on the fly, like trying to figure it out as we went along. There were representatives from the city there, from DOT there, and they weren't even able to answer all of the questions. They were unsure as to why some of this stuff was happening. But one of the things that they did say was that they hadn't received so many complaints before about privatization, which is why they're trying to get it somewhat under control and say you can't go above X amount, because right now it's just like a free-for-all. So this is not just a problem for CB1, it's everywhere, and they're still trying to figure it out, even at the agency.
I think agreed, and pursuant to what Jess is saying, there's a difference, the rule changes for both. There's a definite difference in a pedestrian plaza than there is an open street.
Right.
And trying to ensure that there is some kind of guardrails on it at all. They lump both together.
For example, we had to come up, the restaurant that was going to be getting essentially free real estate versus the school that wanted to close the street for recess because they don't have a yard, right? And now a school is getting something. Well, this is a public school. So that's it's a member of the public. It's not the same as a for-profit restaurant. But that was one of the instances that we came across.
All right, well, let's keep this.
Rosa?
Yeah.
I just wanted to provide some context as a pedestrian plaza partner. So just so you guys know, like, and this is, exclusive to Gotham Park, we don't get any money from DOT. DOT has not stepped foot on the site to take care of it since any of the space opened. And this was even like pre-contract, right? So Parks Department has zero involvement in the project. We pay for our own plants that are planted there. And then we have volunteers that actually come and plant those plants. We water off of a fire hydrant because we don't have water access. We have no electrical access. We only got storage for the site for our maintenance stuff like a month ago. So understand that insurance will cost us over $40,000 a year. The actual maintenance of the site is going to grow beyond our capacity as a full volunteer outfit to be able to take care of. When you don't see garbage piling up there day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, that's us. That
But
actually do that. So how
do open streets or pedestrian plazas help give you money to function?
Yes, theoretically, yes, because if you are able to have a concessionaire on the site, then that concessionaire would pay rent.
But you can
And
have a
then
concessionaire anyway. Look at Bogardus. They have a concessionaire and it has seating.
Right, they're just formalizing that
This is
process.
also saying that 33% of seating would be
So-
exclusive
That's
in a
what we're
place that's
counting.
about public.
No.
Yes,
That was
Already happened.
Ask my question more specifically.
The hands go up, let's go.
Okay, sorry, to go back, it's about,
Rosa done.
I don't know.
No, I'm not.
Answer,
Answer,
oh, okay.
Keep in mind, we have 8 other committees.
Okay, so my point is that we are completely on our own, okay? And so recognize that if you value these public spaces, then somebody, usually a friends group is taking care of them unless it's Parks Department, which is also woefully underfunded. If you value the fact that it's clean and not littered with trash every day, recognize that there are people who have to do that work. I have literally picked up human excrement from the floor there. So recognize that that requires money. Power washing requires money. Taking the trash up to the corner requires money. And this is work that is done by us, conservation or conservancies or friends groups or whatever it is. And right now, it's like you're tying both hands behind somebody's back and then saying, okay, and go do this, right? It's like, either there has to be the infrastructure to support these boards, or if there is not that infrastructure, then at least let the orgs have a fighting chance to survive, is what I'm saying. I don't know that this is it.
Rosa, your time is up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question, just to
Just-
follow up. So, okay, so if you get a concessionaire to come in, you could charge.
Right.
If, for example, a restaurant that came into because I'm familiar with it. If we had them come in, they're a restaurant that's adjacent to your plot, making it up, because it's probably not.
Okay.
Would they then pay you?
Yes, as a concessionaire, they would have to pay.
Would they?
A concessionaire in any pedestrian plaza has to pay the plaza partner.
Yes.
But the question is not, anybody can have a concessionaire. No one's saying to Rosa.
You can't, yeah.
Yes, she can. Anybody.
Right,
can
and
have
they
a
don't want to say if she cannot.
It's about the exclusive seating or public seating.
That's
That is the
correct.
difference. As to whether you allow, that's what this rule is about, is whether or not you are allowing the restaurateur, who is the concessionaire, to have a private space within the public plaza or the public open
I
space.
just want to mention one other thing,
Already
and I'd like to,
streets.
could we call, because this could be on all
Yeah,
night.
all night, yeah.
And we have a huge night ahead of us, Lord. So if you're not happy with it.
No, I'm not
happy. We all know you can vote against it. People will. I just want to say one other thing that I felt very strongly about, that I also, I think I'm right on. that we spoke about is that the community board will no longer have any review at all when a restaurant comes and decides they want to take over a street or that.
It's terrible.
Exceeding that. That is a great concern for quality of life issues. And the fact that DOT basically runs the whole show, I found that something, and that was one of the recommendations we put, which is maybe we want to rethink that rule. This is a rule that is going to be something in play, we hope, that can be amended. So the purpose of our comments are to consider other ways to improve it, not necessarily to throw it out, maybe, but to find ways to improve it and acknowledge things that are of concern to this community and others. And this may or may not suit your understanding of
Can I
that.
ask, where does it say in the rule that the community board review is any different than it is now?
There's no.
There's no, it doesn't say, right?
There's community board review for open streets, there's a comment period.
There's a not.
There's a comment.
Right, so you're asking to go beyond that and give the community board veto power over it, which doesn't exist right now. It doesn't exist for anything.
There would
It exists for the roadbed seating and for
and sidewalk
sidewalk seating.
aesthetic.
I call.
All right.
Okay.
The question's been, stop. Somebody use the gavel. It's been called, it's been seconded. We're gonna do a vote by affirmation and see if this rolls. Okay, so assuming that you've read the resolution, please, dear God, and you are a yes, are there any no's?
Chang,
You must recuse. You are a Plaza partner, you must recuse.
okay, I recuse.
Okay, so Chang recuses.
Holman votes no.
Coleman votes no. Kay votes no. Hold on, Amoruso?
Amoruso, no.
Okay,
No.
and Ushma,
I think not.
is that her last name?
And not actually legally a Plaza partner yet, because the contract is still not.
No.
Tammy, Townley votes no.
Stop.
What's your last name?
I don't think Ushma voted, I take that back.
Yeah, I didn't vote.
Are you voting yes?
Yes, I'm voting yes.
Portia Court? All right, when you vote, say your name and then your vote.
That's what I was trying to ask. Corey, no.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, hearing all those,
Goldstein abstains.
Goldstein abstains, thank you. Are there any other abstentions? Stop, hold on.
Somebody that was online totally missed because I was trying to figure out who was.
Goldstein abstained.
Goldstein.
Everybody else is fine. Ushma doesn't have a camera on. Laura, you have no camera on, and Ushma, you have no camera on, so therefore you will not be able to vote. And Isla.
No.
Just so you guys know, we're critically close to quorum. So nobody leaves the room until we're done tonight. Okay.
So the last person I got was Goldstein, and then Thompson just said something.
He
Other
abstained.
people said things. Brown Kennedy?
Brown Kennedy abstained.
All right,
Okay. Amarusi?
Before the vote closes, change my vote to abstain, please.
okay.
Okay. Zelter?
Belcher abstain.
Okay. Shear?
Abstains?
Rossi abstained.
Say your name and then.
Okay.
Gabrielle.
All right. So we'll vote now. Motion passes.
Okay, next, resolution was on the actual specific street that, came up, which was Duane Street. So this is the application, for the, ability for Casa Restaurant, this is a single owner, to use the street for the hours that are before you, 10 to 9:30, Monday through, Sunday, I guess. And, there was, of course, the same sort of conversation is why just them? What if other merchants want to be using the street? Again, these are comments, so please be sure you read through the comments because we reviewed, ideas of ways to improve this application and make it more fair to all the merchants. And in the process of this, the applicant who came with no proposal, no floor plan, we have no idea how much of the street would be taken, 10 seats, 100 seats, 1,000 seats, where they are, All of that wasn't indicated, there was no plan. So anyway, we asked for that and they agreed to all the things you see at the therefore be it resolved, which was a floor plan and a commitment to providing adequate public seating and a commitment to community programming and a commitment to that all the merchants could equitably use the street. I don't know how that works with DOT. And that they would open their bathrooms to the public during the working hours of the restaurant.
Okay, you have a question, Jess?
Yeah, I won't belabor what I said before, but it should be mentioned in here that this open street already existed for some years before this. It was run by Kio, which closed and is now Casa. There were other restaurants on the street that used it, or bar, whether I believe no longer wants to use it. We've dealt with this previously on the transportation committee, and we've never heard any complaints. It's a very small stretch of the street, so.
And hence why I got a positive resolution and they agreed with other things, particularly a bathroom, which I thought was an amazing ad.
It was more the slippery slope of it. I think people felt like, ooh, we, do this one and then 300 other people want to take over a street. And that it was more the precedent setting. It was the first time that, a new restaurant had come and that's how it.
And they specifically said they were doing open restaurant instead of outdoor dining because it was less expensive and it didn't cost them.
Okay, Betty.
Well, that isn't exactly what they were asking for those in Kio and the people who live there and with their landlord that was there supporting them. But anyway.
She said it was less expensive.
About they didn't pay a fee. I think you have to bring up the cost they are absorbing as a part, which they have not. And what they have to move the table. There is some else the DOC wants to put out.
This is ridiculous.
They have to close down the street. They have to pay the insurance. They're opening their restaurant.
Doesn't every restaurant have to do that? It has a sidewalk.
Yes, and they're making money.
No, actually, they don't.
They would have to do the same thing.
Paid, not the whole lot.
It doesn't make a difference. Wherever they have seating and customers and they are serving, they have to, it's the same due diligence they would do for sidewalk and road pay.
They have to put up barricades.
Tables up for the public.
Barricades.
Well, now they do.
Now they do.
Jared.
I was just gonna say that the rules aside, all these, the hammering about the rules aside, I always personally thought that was a pretty bad location for Open Street. Because it's one of the only ways west to east there.
Correct.
And it, the way they had it before, they had one like Jersey barrier out there and cars go around it and did because it's one of the only ways.
To go east-west, correct.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
John? Yeah, so that was gonna be my point too. I live on Joint Street and they had it before, like you said, it wasn't very utilized. And they blocked the street, so if you had a taxi, you couldn't go down there, you had to go like 3 blocks to get to your house because of the way it's situated. So I think it was like an inconvenience to the community. And there was only a little benefit to them because they didn't have like a lot of seats out there.
Oh, it'll be different this time.
Yeah, different this time. At the end of the day, it's not a good spot for traffic. And Independence Plaza trying to get in and out of there with cars.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, but they just both sides like a perfect example of DOT, with blinders on. The Department of Transportation, not departments of screwing up traffic flow. So, what was just said, I think should be codified, into this resolution, as Honorable mentioned, as a whereas.
Okay, I accept
That there are concerns about the cross-traffic east-west connections and people getting.
Stated in the board meeting. I think that's fair.
Richard?
Yeah, I appreciate the attempt to work with the restaurant and their efforts to comply, but you asked them to provide adequate public seating and community program, but what does that mean? What is adequate? Who measures that? When, on what, should we recommend a metric of some sort? Because it's all too often we find ourselves in a position where a vague rule is completely ignored by private.
Well, we can add here that we don't actually want to support this application. In other words, right now, we're just commenting and offering up ideas free to them. And if they do this, these are the things that they've stipulated, the applicant stipulated will do. You can, as a board can say, even with all of this, this board doesn't support this application, or it does. Right? In other words, I agree your point. We have no idea the answer to that question in a lot of other.
I mean, I think it's, given that it's within the context of the prior resolution,
Bless you.
I think I would vote against it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Brendan? And then Jared, if you've already spoken and not to agree with anyone else, it has to be a completely new thing. Brendan?
Just want to point out, because we're talking about how it like went from the east and west, you go like 2 blocks up and there's a 2 big street. I am in favor of this location. If you go to work, that's 2 ways. And there's no lights in between there. So you take a left and go straight and take a right. So I actually don't think it's actually that much of a detriment to traffic. I am there regularly, and when they had the seating out there, I thought it was great, thought it was fine. People seem to enjoy it. They had a lot of good seating. Want to support those new businesses that are right there. Y'all know I'm not generally in favor of giving away space.
Yeah.
So I need to say that, I think. That's just.
Thank you, Brendan. Nope. Jared?
The only thing I was gonna say, not to contradict myself, but what would actually be, I think, a boon for the neighborhood would be if the whole Duane Park area could be shut down on the weekends or something, if there's a business that wanted to take that.
You take that up with Duane Park. That's not what this resolution is about. Let's keep it solid. Let's keep it tight. Unless, okay. Richard wanted a clarification, which he asked for before. I recognized him, and then afterwards, there will be no other debate. I am limiting and canceling debate because the question was called and answered. Richard, you have the last clarification.
Is this resolution specifically about granting space for this restaurant, exclusive space, or is this about the open street itself?
Yes to both.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's not about the open street. This open street exists.
So it's not, so no.
No, the open street does not exist because the restaurateur who did the open street before is gone. They're kaput, they're out of business. This is this restaurant applying for an open street on this street, which they approved with this new operator, who will be able to put their own private seating. So yes is the answer for that clarification.
So if we vote no, we're voting against an open street lane.
So you're saying that if this
It's gonna
restaurant
be,
doesn't
that's his question, and you're not answering it. It is an open street no matter what.
That's my.
If you vote against this resolution, it's an open street without any caveats or qualifications. Like license.
You're voting against the
Sorry, one more time.
Okay,
so.
Can I just, because you received a letter, the board received a letter saying that this open street was approved by DOT.
Right.
And you could comment
This is our comment.
on Casa Restaurant.
Yep.
Taking over from.
Okay, so that's what this is.
Yeah. The comment to the DOT on that application. Is everyone clear on that?
And the only friendly change is that we are adding that concerns were raised both at the committee and the full board about Duane Street being an east-west access through street for the buildings to get from Greenwich to,
Hudson.
Hudson, West Providence.
Okay, so.
West.
To be, somebody,
It was called, it was seconded.
Okay, vote.
Let's vote by affirmation again. This is about this specific open street. It was called, it was seconded, so it's a vote by affirmation. If you are going to say no, raise your hand so we can identify you, and then we're gonna go from there. Okay, Amoruso?
Foreman, no.
Oh, John.
John Scott, no.
Coleman, no.
Sure, no.
Are there any other no's, either in the room or online?
Oh, you vote no.
Okay, are there any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Zelda.
Are there any other abstentions?
Rossi abstains?
Rossi abstains. Are there any abstentions online? Meltzer abstains. Okay. Are there any recusals? I don't think so, because nobody belongs to Casa Restaurant in the room. Fantastic. Motion passes. Next one.
Okay, where are we? So the last one of the group is the, the one before it was the DOT approved, open street on Peck Slip. Same concept, a closed street, but this time, they're a public school that's been doing this for a number of years. And it's a public school, as Mariana was pointing out, slightly different than a private commercial restaurant. And so nobody had any trouble with that, and it passed.
Yeah.
So that's,
we call the question?
Second.
Fantastic. Vote by affirmation for the open street for the school. Are there any no's? And Maruso is a no. Are there any other no's in the room? See, no. Flynn is no. Seeing and hearing no other no's. Are there any abstentions in the room? No abstentions, no recusals, motion passes.
the last thing was something that we had a wonderful presentation by the intern, Leah Barazini. This will come before us. I want her to summarize her own work. She was tremendous. It was a great effort. I don't feel I want to do that for her. So she will come back in May or June for that, and that you'll hear her public space assessment for our community district, which was excellent. That's it.
Next committee, licensing, take us.
Okay, so I think that on the outdoor dining, we can take all of them together. There's not an issue. We put all the qualifications in, we did what we were supposed to do. I wasn't there, Francis and Gabby were there, but I don't, there's no problem on any of this.
So I'm gonna confirm that 70 Reed,
50 Fulton and 213 Front Street. There was some issue around Front Street because Front Street is crowded. And it's a problem, but we gave it to them. It's been in existence and whatever.
okay, do we have any questions? We're gonna take these three together. Seeing no questions and no hands? All question. Thank you.
Second.
Thank
I've been
you.
looking at it before. Don't raise your hand.
All right, so vote by affirmation. Are there any in opposition? Raise your hand. Mark Emerson, what are you?
13 front, no.
You are opposed to 213 front. That's Amoruso. Okay, are any others? You, what is your opposition?
213 front.
Thank you. Are there any others in opposition? Is there anybody online? And your cameras all have to be on if you're voting. Gentle reminder.
213, no.
Lerner is 213, no. Thank you, Mr. Lerner. All right, anybody else?
Thompson abstains, Debbie agreed.
Okay, so this is, Thompson is starting off the abstentions. Are there any abstentions? We have Thompson for 78 Reed. Any other abstentions in the room? Any abstentions online? Meltzer abstains from 213 front. Okay, hearing and seeing no other abstentions and no other in opposition, the motions all pass.
All right, so 200 Church. The issue with that was there had been some trouble with that restaurant and the neighbors. It's a co-op or a condo on top of the restaurant. And before there was a lot of noise and a lot of partying. This is a restaurant that was in, what's the neighborhood? It was in the East 20s. It was called I Truly. When I recognized the owner, we both aged tremendously. It's a very good restaurant and it's terrific. And he didn't have any signatures from the community. One of the residents did talk about wanting to give them a chance, but wanting them to ensure that they would soundproof if there was an issue. He said he was going to have background music and it wasn't going to be an issue. We approved it with some comments and they submitted, according to Onesh, they submitted signatures and signatures from the building as well.
Okay, fantastic.
No, petition signatures, not from the board.
Oh, not, there were two. I did look. There was two from 200.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like a full list.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't. It wasn't tons of people, but they submitted.
This is a building that's got, this is a public capacity of 144 people.
Yeah, it's gonna be large venue.
Over 3,000 square feet, and you have complaints from the upstairs neighbors.
Yeah, but a couple signed, nobody came tonight. We had only one that protested. He very much wants to make it work. We were convinced that he would, and we'll see what happens. I mean, that's all we can do.
Right. 200 church. Okay,
So,
are there?
Is this 200 church or
200 church.
church.
Okay, any,
It's right on the corner.
any questions?
Yeah, I think so. No,
No, it's the former Greek
it
restaurant.
was a Greek
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yes.
Gary.
As like-
Yeah.
And that was perfect. It's big after the.
It was perfect.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Hearing and seeing no questions online and none in the room,
Call the question.
fantastic. Is there a vote by affirmation? So therefore, are there any in opposition? Hearing and seeing none in opposition in the room, is there anybody online?
This is, we're posing.
No,
No,
it's,
oppose unless. We oppose unless. We approved. We didn't oppose any last time
Okay.
around.
all right, fantastic. There are no abstention, are there any abstentions? Hearing and seeing no abstentions in the room nor online, are there any recusals? Hearing and seeing none, either in the room or online, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
So the next is, the financial district, doing it by district. I just think it's easier. Fulton Street is, in the Seaport, they were expanding and changing around. It's a large venue. The hours, you can notice, they're grandfathered. We have given them those hours before. They came, they spoke to us. We approved it.
But you, it's one vote, you have two committee members who opposed it.
Pardon me?
In the committee, you had two people out of the seven that opposed it, or out of nine, sorry.
Yeah, two people opposed. The public, I know exactly who opposed, but yeah, we did. They did.
I just wondered, was the reason?
For a variety of reasons. Space. Mostly it's that they're taking over more space. They have more,
May they be successful.
a more area space, but it's down in the Seaport. It's not a big issue.
I mean, it's a capacity of 1,000 people.
Yes,
That's it.
Dallas, it is. It's enormous.
Yeah, just saying.
No, and I'm not being, but it is. They won't have that. The real issue is when Pier 17 lets out. And they talked about that there wouldn't be hanging around, that their tables and whatever, and it is an enclosed space. But we gave it to them.
Yep.
We did.
Okay.
No,
You
Mr.
can take
Zelker has a
support.
question.
got a question.
Do you have a question, Edgar?
Yeah, so you mentioned, the hours already because they're grandfathered.
Yeah, they have those hours already.
Would we prefer to change those hours?
No.
So can we?
I think the SLA would be hard pressed to allow us to do that, okay? Since there've been no real complaints and no issues, Andrew.
Okay, do you think you are well enough to be able to take then, Seaport Civic and Governors at the same time?
I can take them all.
One more.
Then.
Are the hours that are grandfathered in, this is for, one, I guess it's for outdoor seating, is that what this is for? And so,
It's outdoor, it's a liquor, it's all outdoor, this space, basically, Brendan. It's not indoor.
how are they posted?
Indoor,
Outdoor, sorry, outdoor.
it's two. It's what it says here.
Okay.
It's what it says.
This is Howard Hughes, right?
Yes.
All the questions?
But it's not Howard Hughes, it's a
Again,
different
again.
Alice.
The question has been called and I want to confirm, we are taking both financial districts, Seaport and Governors Island, correct?
Yay.
Yes.
Correct. All of it.
All of it. Fantastic.
Then I second.
All right, it was called, it was seconded, and vote by affirmation. Do I have any in opposition? Do I hear any abstentions?
Coochie abstains from 1 Fulton Street.
Okay, Gooch abstains.
Thompson abstains from 49 Chambers.
Thompson abstains from 49 Chambers. Blank,
Abstains from one Fulton.
okay, any other abstentions for anything? You?
You abstains from 1 Fulton.
Okay,
Did have to abstain on
Chairman?
Governor's Island.
Yes, you do.
Abstain or recuse.
I'm recused on
No, you
Governor's
don't. You don't have a financial interest in that restaurant.
Island. That's different.
You do not. You just have to declare that you're on the board there. You're fine.
Okay, on the board.
Meltzer abstains from 49 Chambers. Okay, anybody else online for any abstentions, any recusals?
I'm gonna abstain from 49 Chin.
Okay.
Can you please say your last name?
Oh,
Okay, great. So I think with that, all motions passed. Thank you very, very much.
thank you. And I just want to let all of you know, because it's fascinating to me. 48 Wall Street, which was going to be like a Cirque du Soleil. They came and we had a whole discussion. Pulled out.
You're kidding.
They pulled out, and it is again, an event space. So it's having all these events all the time, which we have no control over.
Oh, wow.
Unless you complain to the SLA because they should have their own liquor license if
But
they
they,
have more than
the, the owner and it's a mess. But I just thought I'd tell you all of that stuff. And I would like to figure out how we approve many of these places and then they never open. And I would like to see
Yeah.
if there is a way for us to know. Because the one that was gonna be a bowling alley, the axe throwing is open, but the bowling alley, I just think we should know somehow. We were gonna have a bowling alley on Broad Street.
Wait, where's their?
Oh, the axe throwing's on Lafayette. It's on
Just
Lafayette.
be-
That's
The axe throwing.
must go.
See, now that's what I thought.
Yeah, oh, that would be a good one.
No.
Done.
We're all punch drunk.
We are.
All right, quality of life,
Quality of life.
Mariana.
Okay, so I just want to quickly mention, I was asked to go to what I was told was a quality of life announcement by the mayor. And before I was willing to go, I asked a bunch of questions to find out exactly what that was going to entail. And then it said it was to turn 311 calls into something to which police respond. So it's like community policing merged with, like what we used to have, merged with 311 so that there's a better response. Even with that, I had like some questions and concerns about, for example, immigrant communities being, maybe they'll be hesitant to dial 311 now because, ICE is gonna show up, or, Black residents, maybe they don't wanna call because the police are gonna show up and not do what they want, but something else, and all those sorts of things before I was willing to go. They sort of assured me that, they thought about those things as well, and this was gonna be a good plan. It may be a good plan, may not be a good plan. I just want to report that I actually showed up, and I did attend this thing, and it's supposed to be getting started. Also, at the meeting, we were to take up, a bench resolution that John Scott proposed. He was like more specific to IPN, and when we brought it to the committee, I wanted to like work on it and expand it because there is a problem, sort of probably citywide, but at least district-wide, we want to handle all our areas, for seniors and disabled persons and just tired people. There's nowhere to stop. There's nowhere to stop and take a break. And, like a lot of benches have been taken up so as to avoid, unhoused people from being able to sit down or lay down. It's causing a hindrance to, everybody else. And so we want to get some benches back outside, but we didn't have, by the time we made it to that portion of the meeting, we didn't have quorum, so that didn't come up. Also, we wanted to reauthorize or reconstitute or both our Affordable Housing Subcommittee and didn't have the quorum to do that.
You don't need quorum.
Oh,
You
okay.
need to announce that.
Oh, okay.
Can
Can I announce it here?
I authorized you to do it, so give it a shot. Yep.
So we would like to reconstitute or reauthorize our Affordable Housing Subcommittee to get reactivated also, and begin to meet on some issues, particularly Battery Park City. We have an initial item there that we want to work on, but of course that would also be district-wide. And the rest, Francis and Jill
Hold on,
handled.
let me give you an update on the benches. John Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. Those benches existed before construction?
Yes, I gave
Okay.
details on.
Then we're good, because we don't need to pass it by resolution. If they were there prior, they were removed for construction, which is the DOT, pathway that they use. When there's construction, they remove benches. They should have put them back. So we can do a letter from the chair It took me a while to figure this out, that says they were removed for construction and the community is requesting them to be reinstated. So we will do that from the office within the next week.
Very good.
Okay, so that'll solve the IPN, and then we could put the item on for general benches.
But to talk to that, I think that all the separate communities from Southbridge has to come up with where they want them, why they want them.
Correct.
Stuff like we did. It's like, okay, you said, well, you did it. Well, what about the whole area? Well, I think each area has to do it.
They have a
I can't go into those areas and say, well, you had something over here once. People come to me and they say, John, we need seating. They should come to people.
No, it's a different, I'm not even doing it because people at Southbridge raised the issue. I'm doing it because it's been in the newspaper.
It's a point.
And it's extended all the way into the subways, actually, where they've removed benches and replaced them with something to stand against. So that's why we wanted to do it on a larger scale rather than just IPN. But I'm happy that yours is being settled. For the rezos, we're going to go to Jill because she and Francis handled those in my absence.
Okay. Oh, is Francis on the call? Is Francis here?
It is Jill Goodkind, our acting co-chair.
Okay. So, because we didn't have quorum, I think the resolutions that we had looked at were brought to exec to vote on.
No,
No,
we did
one-
not.
you have
Taken
to.
as a provisional vote in quality and we'll vote on it at full board.
I don't,
Jill, do you should talk about 31 Walker or Greenwich Street, Clinton Hall.
I think the Clinton Hall was an issue.
Well,
It is.
I'm also noticing on 31 Walker and on 399, I guess it is Greenwich, both of these applications don't note that they're applying for a roadway. And in both cases, they have roadway, though it's not indicated here. And so in evaluating whether 399 should be having yet another row of sidewalk cafe to what they think they have now, in addition to roadbed, I think that we need to know that. I mean, I don't know. Does anyone know that? Maybe.
Well, let's ask the co-chair.
Okay.
Who else? Jill, do you know?
I do not know. Zach, do you have the notes on that?
The question is 399 also
Yeah,
coming?
399.
That did not come up in that.
Oh, no, do you know?
You said it didn't come up?
It didn't, that question did not come up, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't recall that.
399 Greenwich Street Tavern, do they have a roadbed?
Or are they applying?
Or are they applying for one? They have
one. They have one though.
They
I
have
know.
one, they have had one in the.
And
Yes.
they didn't want one.
That's what they said.
Yeah, it's expensive. They might not want it.
They said, okay, so we have people from the committee saying they were there, they asked, and they don't want it.
Isn't the application state that on there somewhere? Don't we have the application itself?
It's two applications.
Oh, I thought we were establishing that it would say that, so we always don't have to.
No, there's
Every single time.
No, we know it's two, but sometimes the question is if you apply for the other one.
Okay.
No, they haven't applied for.
Okay, so they're too late for this season. I will say that we received, since the quality of life meeting, a ton of feedback from the people around 90 Washington Street. And we did reach out to the council member because that building has gone into foreclosure. So, yeah, it's, the judge put it in receivership, which we know, not Clinton Hall, but the Moynihan Group, who is the building owner.
Moynihan, yeah.
Moynihan, not the land leaseholder, but the building owner. And they have an issue with the scaffolding that's been up for almost 10 years on that building. So, there are several issues here.
It's just 100, John.
This is 90
Washington.
So what happened with 399
We're
Greenwich?
I'm going through all of the little notes that I have had since quality of life.
Yeah, I could say that one representative or one a woman from the building did show up. And there's a lot of issues surrounding that building, not necessarily specific to Clinton Hall's application. Clinton Hall did have a roadway cafe there that was much larger than what they're asking for now. However, when they repaved the road, that's when the larger roadway cafe was there. Now that there's going to be so there's a dugout that fills with water and horrible stuff where the previous roadway cafe was. The roadway cafe they're asking for is a smaller space. But there's still a problem, and Zach will have notes on that to discuss how to deal with that issue. They also, the woman was telling us, had issues with needles she believed, I don't know if it was from the nearby shelter or just from people using needles there. Previously in the roadway cafe, they did have people staying there or hunkering down there for whatever reasons after service was over, which had caused a problem. We saw drawings of the new design, and that's supposed to help alleviate that issue going forward. So there's a couple issues there. Also, I'm not sure how the sound might affect the building once that scaffolding finally comes off.
Tammy?
Yeah.
I would postpone this in some way. We can't. I think, but what you say? Because I think it's fraud. And I think it's fraud even for the SLA. I think there are a lot of issues here that are not controllable.
For 90 Washington.
Yes, 90 Washington.
And they haven't been recertified for an open
And
air
lots of
cafe.
things. I think it is, and I would write a letter to the SLA of why we did it.
It's actually DOT. I think
Yeah.
this is the revocable consent for DOT. So if the committee voted to approve it, and we are saying here that we think that it shouldn't be, then we vote it down and we say that we deny, or we approve it with the following modifications only, and then push it back to our council member that says it needs to be approved only if the roadway is repaved, the POPs is figured out, the, scaffolding issues.
That's what I would
We can put all those here.
I do want to add that it did not appear to us that any of these issues were Clinton Hall's fault at all. They have enough bathrooms. They were very open about everything. It seems to me that a lot of the issues were not caused by.
Well, that's what I'm getting. How is it fair to?
Well, but they have ponding and water on the road. So if DOT is approving it, DOT should be fixing the road before they allow a road bed to go on top.
Of course, but
That's not necessarily a guarantee without our stating it, Jared.
Yeah.
I'm
We have to say
sorry.
that. That's what we have to say.
We have to say, we don't want to, I'm not saying put them out of business, but some of these things have to be dealt with, and unless.
You have to have, that is their responsibility, it's clear right to using 20% of the seating for their private use. This is the POPs, it has been in
This is
violation.
This is roadway, not sidewalk.
Yes, but it doesn't matter, their space that they've already taken over for their use was in violation since 2017. So this community needs to have assurance that that is no longer a violation before you give them additional seating, I would argue, if we're going to make that.
Hold on. The problem with that mindset is DOT has zero to do with POPs, not one.
And they don't care.
And they didn't apply for a sidewalk cafe because they don't need it because they're in the POP. So we do need to have our council member engage on this and help us with this, because I don't see any other way of getting it fixed.
They were asked in the meeting if they're in violation. They said they're not in violation, and they said they underuse what they're allowed to use.
Well, they say that that wasn't the case in 2017 when they were fined and found in violation. This says that they're going through recertification. If that's true, then they should be recertified. There should be, there should be proof of that. I mean, whatever.
Okay, Justine?
And I just want to say, they already have, and I guess it's the Pops you're talking about, they've got a huge outdoor space outside their.
But that has nothing to do with the DOT application or road bed.
They asked Zach for, to be connected with the DOT about the repaving thing. I just don't see why they should be penalized for the crummy condition.
They shouldn't be penalized, but DOT should fix the road so it doesn't have standing water underneath the road bed.
And also, this was one person who was saying this. We haven't observed it. I mean, I think it's important to hear from people at 90 Washington to get a real handle on what that situation is.
Jill, we got plenty of photos, trust me.
So we could.
Okay, then I stand corrected.
All the things you said.
So,
Can we?
yep, we can do road repave
So it's not-
before,
Yeah.
yeah.
Getting the road paved and whatever.
Help with your cheap repave, I mean.
Well,
You can try.
We can try and we can ask, and we can put it in the comments and we can put it on record that we think that this is that we would think it was a good idea only if the road was repaved to prevent the ponding.
yeah,
You know.
mosquitoes and bugs and everything else.
Okay. Health issues. Okay. Jill, any, 399, was there any other comments on that? Because we're gonna try and take these three together. That's why I'm trying to get through all three. And 31 Walker.
Yeah. I actually didn't know I was going to be doing this, so I don't have notes in front of me, and I apologize for that. Zach, do you have notes?
Are there any other notes for 31 Walker for Añejo Tribeca or Greenwich Street Tavern?
Could we then identify this is not getting a road bed, that there's 399, you're getting an extra row of sidewalk, cafe seating and the road? They didn't say they're doing.
No, they said they're not going for a road
But if they asked, but they said that they didn't want the road bed.
And
Can we
399,
get approval to add that, please?
Add that in.
Sure.
399 is just a lot fewer seats on
Well,
Beach Street.
what'd you
That's
say?
fine.
What?
Yeah.
It's a lot fewer seats than what they asked for previously. On
They
Beach.
have them on both beach and.
Right, but Beach, there were many more seats before this.
That's true.
And so they
They
now
decreased.
down to 2 or 3 tables on the Beach Street side, which is the residential side. There were a couple additional seats and tables on the Greenwich Street side.
Yeah, they provided a new.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I didn't realize they took them.
Okay,
But they-
so we are adding under that one that the client has affirmed that the applicant has affirmed that they will not seek roadway. Perfect. 31, was there any other changes to Añejo Tribeca for 31 Walker? Sam?
They also were not getting road bed?
Do you have, do you have 31 Walker as applying for road bed?
They already have road bed.
Oh.
Also,
On-
I wasn't at this meeting.
On, understood, but
But yeah, they already have road bed.
on Walker or on Church?
I believe it was Walker.
Can you look up and see how many seats they have? Because it would be curious for their bathrooms.
Is there any reason why you're not including 81 West Broadway?
Did I miss it?
What's the land?
Thank you for catching that.
All of them.
We did.
Well, I did,
I wasn't there.
I think I threw them away,
Oh, that's not good.
but we did talk about it and it would certainly be in.
For 81 West Broadway for Le Pen,
It's on, for Anejo, it's Walker only, 8 seats, 4 tables.
okay, how many bathrooms do they have at Walker's?
We did ask about the bathrooms. I don't recall offhand, but I do believe that they were sufficient.
That's fine.
They had, I think, one upstairs, two downstairs.
Okay.
We went through it pretty thoroughly.
Mark had a question or comment. Mark?
Is a comment for 399 Greenwich, the Greenwich Street Tavern. Whereas the owner is like, he's a nice guy, and a lot of times they'll go past their time when they have the road bed and when the street cafe, closing time for that, and you'll call them up and they'll fix it, but they kind of will do it, and then you have to call them to say, look, you got it, it's a half hour past, there's still people outside. Sometimes they'll be like tables. And then a lot of patrons from that, establishment will go into College Street.
Yeah.
Go there and smoke and do other things. That's why a few years ago I was asking for more lights there, but for some reason it was streetlights.
So-
Why that was controversial.
They'll get a new STIP for SLA from the office. Anybody from this month, from April, for any outdoor dining will get the new STIP forms to fill out and sign. And then the office will sign and notarize and send to the SLA with the existing hours.
I just wanted to get that on the record that been not a big issue all the time, but it's like, like I said, you have to like, they'll take advantage a little bit until you call them and then they'll fix it. And they're nice about it, but they still take advantage.
Has this restaurant ever had seating? Because to me, that Panko Tikian is a really busy corner. I don't ever remember seeing
Yes.
one row. It always
Yeah,
has
they did.
Yes.
two rows of seating.
Yeah, it's the Citibank buildings across the street, there's a lot of traffic.
I know.
Okay, are there any other comments on Le Pen Quotidien for 81 West?
Do they have a bar upstairs?
No.
No alcohol.
No alcohol?
They were, it was very not controversial.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
seemed fine.
So with all four of these, it's been called in second. Are there, and again, if you're going to oppose, please raise your hand. So vote by affirmation. Emma Russo, please state which addresses you're opposing.
90 Washington is a no. 399 Greenwich is an abstain.
Okay, thank you very much.
Joe Lerner has.
Joe Lerner,
Clinton Hall, no.
90 Washington.
90 Washington. Thank you, Joe. Any other no's in the room? Eric, you?
90 Washington, no.
Thank you.
Kucha, 90 Washington, no.
Thank you.
Yourself, 90 Washington, no.
Thank you.
James, 90 Washington, no.
Thank you.
Why? 90 Washington, no, and the others abstain.
Okay, so blanket abstaining from all and a no on 90 Washington. Do I hear any others in the room? What was that, Thompson?
Yes, Thompson is abstaining to 31 Walker, opposing 399 Greenwich, opposing 90 Washington, and opposing 81 West.
Fantastic. Anybody else? Meltzer opposes 90 Washington.
I'll abstain on 90 West.
And Cole abstains on 90 Washington. Lewinson is well abstain. I just need them to fix the damn roads.
Oh,
All right.
I'll say no.
I don't know, we put it in there that we want them to fix the roads.
It's okay.
Yeah, Lewinson's abstain. Are you abstaining?
No, she said.
What
no.
did she say?
You said no?
Said no.
Lewin said abstain. Lewinson abstained. Vicky said no.
Okay,
Cameron.
so Lewinson, abstain,
Cameron, no.
Cameron, no.
Okay, with that, thank you very much for quality of life. The motion, all motions have passed. All right.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Jill, for stepping up and stepping in. All righty.
9 o'clock at night. Okay, I'm gonna just throw the slides.
You
Okay.
got 6 minutes.
I know, I do have 6 minutes. Okay, and I can do it for 5. Okay, we had 2 great presentations. One is by our new borough, DEP Borough Commissioner named Martin Patu, who gave a presentation on flooding. Pretty obvious stuff for anybody. Please go to the obviously our YouTube ways to mitigate flooding. We had a lot of photographs of some of the sewers in our neighborhood. Next slide. Interesting sewer backups and overflows and how that occurs. Most people probably know this and how to avoid it. Next slide. Cloudburst, interesting how in different parts of the city, particularly in Queens, you're going to start seeing a lot of these underground resources and tanks that hold water. And we'll talk a little bit about that as some mitigation strategy. Also, you define a stormwater rule on roofs throughout the city, private buildings. Coastal resilience, of course, which was a good segue because right after this, we went into the Seaport Coastal Resilience Plans, which so will this presentation. And we talked a little, next slide. We talked a little bit about what to do in emergency, reminded us all to be sure that you've signed up for Notify New York City. Marty has promised to come back and do a walking tour because I think it was Zach who mentioned earlier, there is a pump station, Canal Street, that's being launched. Could probably be fascinating to see that. And there are these catch basins, who knew? And there are flood monitors throughout, which we're rooting for one for Rose's Gotham Park area. So that is something that will happen hopefully in the spring. So we'll let you know. Anyway, that was an interesting presentation. That was followed by the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resiliency. We've seen this plan for 10 years. The orange is what we looked at, the Seaport Coastal. This is a good map. It tried to, we asked them, show us how this thing relates to the finite seaport, and this diagram is helpful. You'll see the orange is the seaport, and the green is the finite seaport, and the pink is the further north projects for the Brooklyn Bridge Montgomery. Near term, far term, this was a good diagram of the flood alignment with the different types of flood alignments, the different types of walls. And, definitely something you want to look at more carefully where these walls are and exactly what they're made out of and how they get integrated into the landscape or urbanscape. Next slide. And this is a design approach for placemaking, how these walls do get integrated, both on the inland and waterfront areas. A little sketch showing you what that might look like schematically. And then we had a whole conversation on interior drainage. By the way, these are like hour and a half presentations, just to say. And it was very interesting, the drainage and what happens with the bathtub effect and what's the cure for that. Well, a pumping station. First, we had heard of this pumping station being in the seaport plan, so there will be a large pumping station building somewhere. We don't know yet. We don't know the size, but it will be above ground. So keep posted. They also talked about the connections to the adjacent properties and projects rather, and you see them here and talked about each one, not each one, but several. Next slide. Oh, right, this community board, we've spoken a lot about sun and shade, the desire to have more shade, more green, and so they did dutifully really look at that carefully and provided some diagrams of what that will look like in terms of research and study, and examples of ways to get trees into the site, particularly along the Esplanade, different kinds of approaches. And next slide. And then the next steps. So there will be this walk shop, which will be really interesting. I'm scheduled tentatively for May 14th. Really, all of you should go. It's fantastic. It's a great opportunity to really get it, walking around the seaport. What's it going to really feel like? And then there will be a workshop where everybody will come into some public building, maybe the Battery Maritime, and everyone gets to see all these plans. And then, not so long off, 6 months, it's going to go to LPC and PDC, Public Design Commission Landmarks Preservation, which is an important moment, generally means 30% design starts to really cook. Yes, we talked a lot about funding. Tammy's already gone over that. And we then heard a little bit about the master plan for Finite Seaport. That will be addressed at the next Environmental Protection Committee meeting with a lot of detail on the battery. So anyone interested in the battery part must come to that meeting. And I think I'm in under 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Questions?
Awesome. I will tell you, I will ask everybody to put the May 14th in your calendars. I know we have a community board meeting that night, but if you're not going to that, please try and do this.
Or
the May 14th. They're looking their early summer. We suggested that maybe they should do it like in the seaport area, which would be great. You're talking about walls going up in and around the historic Seaport District. You're talking about lots of stuff. So it would be good for you to walk and see before the bulldozers arrive.
that,
Next slide.
we're done.
Netta, I think you're doing land use tonight.
Sure.
So the community,
Jess, where are you?
Right,
Okay.
TikTok, I'm sorry.
Okay, Netta, you've got the resolution for 100 gold?
Yes, we reviewed the RFP.
Wait, come close so people can hear you online.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Come out, shout it out, bang it out, so my dog will be going home.
We reviewed the RFP for 100 gold. The committee went through all the items and requested more information to be issued as an addendum to the bidders. Should we go through all the items one by one?
I think that everybody who is here should have read it prior to coming to the full board.
Yep.
So
So maybe I can just say the most important ones where they need to provide clarifications to the bidders. What is the criteria on evaluating the bids?
Yeah.
And what is considered a beneficial community facility that they're gonna provide? So they're all included in the response or investment.
Anybody have any questions?
No question, a couple of amendments that I would suggest. First of all, bravo, whoever you and Patrick, really well done. One of the things though, is that we were looking to highlight the community concerns. And I'm not sure that's there yet. And so I would just ask that we add a few of those concerns. I think the addition to the RFP, should include some of the data that we have in the community board on the lack of green space and the community's interest in having as part of this proposal, certain public amenities. I know that was spoken about at the meeting, so.
It's just not listed in the.
That's right. I would just ask to add that. So, public amenities, which would include green space, and I'm not sure what else was asked for. I know Paul has very good thoughts on that. And also that just where you talk about clarify plans for underground integrity and safety, when you're talking about the cellar, given the building's location in the floodplain. I think that big building, if I'm not mistaken, is in the floodplain, and we should note it if that's the case, and I think
I
it
don't
is.
believe it is, actually.
No. Oh, it's not? It is not?
That's your map from the.
It is not? Is it floodplain?
No, please.
Okay, well, let's confirm that, sorry. And then also, it doesn't seem to, you know, the other data point that should be revealed to the people who are looking at the RFP is the fact that how much luxury housing we have in this community and how much we do and don't need. That's missing, along with the public space issue. That's not identified, and I think should be. And another thing that we talked about, and also that, you know, rental versus ownership. There's
The
no,
condo versus.
we talked about that, I know. And then the other thing is just we felt that there should be more mixed use. In other words, not to lose that commercial residential mix that we see in the neighborhood with all residential. I know those were all things that were brought up at the meeting that I think are still valuable to be included.
And Alice will send you wording on all of those additions.
Amazing.
I've heard, Paul, your hand is up?
I specifically talked about a community center for the east side, among other things, open space, community center, senior programs, possible library, and I'll leave it at that.
Including, not limited to. Thank you,
Yeah.
Paul. All right, any other questions, comments? I did hear right before I recognized Paul, I think off the corner, did I hear somebody? Second. It was called and seconded, vote by affirmation. Are there any noes? Are there any abstentions? Hearing and seeing none anywhere. You're recusing, Gabby? Gabby is recusing. Fantastic. Any other recusals? Motion passes. Laura Starr.
Rossi, thank you.
Starr,
Start and vote on this one.
yeah, Starr needs to recuse. She's not answering and her camera's not on, so her vote wouldn't count. So there we go.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so let's keep going. Next committee. We're not gonna have Netta do the last two reports. No, that's not true. Last mile facility text amendment is going to an EIS scoping. I suggest you, listen to the reporting. And then 77 Water Street, I will call that out very specifically for Netta and for Alice, who's been dogged on this. The Pops was completely demolished. And no one seems to know. It's against the rules. They're not supposed to demolish it without, you know, a process in DCP. And so we have our city council person looking at it, but
Yeah, so it stands amount to like somebody came in and took out 7 honey locust trees. This is a Pops Plaza, not an arcade, so this is sacred ground. And it would be tantamount to taking out Finn Square. Yeah, like just take out Finn Square, that's what we just had removed. This beautiful plaza with 7 beautiful trees gone. And it's not theirs to, it's the public. That's right.
Correct.
So just to understand the significance.
So who oversees this? I heard DCP.
DCP.
They don't have any staff to do this. I'm just thinking they don't have staff to
Well,
monitor it.
you would think, it wasn't as if we didn't notify them. It wasn't as if we didn't ask. It wasn't as if we hadn't questioned it. before it got fully demolished.
Way back.
So it's Department of City Planning has inspectors and Department of Buildings, and we spoke to them, I don't know, maybe a year ago about this.
So I find it unusual that it's under DCP. I think it should be under DOB because they're already there with the building and.
Guess what? They
That's the-
approved.
You're not
full
alone with
demolition.
that opinion.
Yeah.
They approved that didn't happen. Anyway,
On the trees,
Sorry? They took down everything.
Everything,
Trees
Mark.
down to ground.
isn't there some procedure before cutting
Sorry,
trees?
but-
Yes.
Yes,
And have to go through-
Yeah,
But it's done.
yes,
It's done.
and it's done.
so
So,
today is
Hopefully,
the
yeah.
for homes building.
This
Yeah.
stuff,
Sorry.
Netta,
I looked up on the DOB violations. The
trees.
site has violations and they were complaints about the park not being there and not being open to public, so I do think it's under DOB.
Yeah, oh, well,
yeah, there are complaints. It's just,
They sent an inspector now.
yeah.
Yeah, but nobody stepped up.
correct.
It's too late. Stop.
Next committee.
Okay, pushed to a stop work order and it was already gone. In other words, part of the buzz was gone. Anyway, that's.
Transportation, Billy.
Okay, transportation, we have 3 resolutions this month. All of them are annual events. The first 2 of them are large events. The third is a smaller event on a single block, making it quite different. The Five Borough Bike Tour is produced by Bike New York City, but in conjunction with the City of New York. This is the way the City of New York promotes the 5 boroughs. Next. And it is a fundraiser, it's their largest fundraiser, and it is for the education of people, adults and children, about bicycle safety. It also trains incarcerated people in how to do repair work, giving them routes to employment. The route's pretty much the same, you can look at the map and it'll look the same, except they have reduced one way. So the entry points onto Church Street are a little bit varied because they only need 5 entry points, and they run the same.
Where's the staging for this initially?
Same as the,
It's the same as it always has been.
Where?
church.
It's all on Church Street, but if you're looking at where the announcements are, the
There you go.
pre-event stuff, that's
Mark, take a look.
Church and where?
church.
Take a look.
It's a full length.
It's
Church, Warren.
it's
Warren.
pretty much all of Church Street.
Mhm.
As it says.
Okay.
Okay.
If you go by Barnett Newman Triangle, you get to where some of the speakers and things at the beginning are, not where people are lining up.
Band.
Next.
In the band. There have not been complaints, nevertheless, we did go for an approval of this activity. And next, there are 3 parts. We did include some of the various requests as we have in past years. Again, not because there have been complaints about these things. There has been continual improvement. We want to remind them about these asks.
Orton.
Next, there are 2 new things. We do support their commitment to they're gonna look at class 1, that's pedal assist bicycles. There was one person there very concerned about why should there be any pedal assist at all involved? Everything should be no. Anyway, they are going to look at it to ensure that the unrestricted use that they have doesn't result in any incidents, which in the past they have not recorded or seen any, but they're going to officially do it this year. But also to look at how many people are using them because they can't ride 40 miles and want to participate and need the assistance, want the assistance. So support that. And next, thank you, Alice. One more, next slide. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, we're asking them to work with Burnett Newman Triangle because it is where their opening activities are. And Alice, if you want to speak, there's hopes that's a mutually beneficial promotion.
Yeah, because I'm sort of gonna know that we're getting that whole plaza sort of retreated, so we don't want to find it decimated, and we're hopeful that they'll organize some way to support the park while they're in the park. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but I'll let you know. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and that's it.
Okay. Can you think that we can take this American Heart Association and Dinner on Duane all together?
Nothing, so.
Yeah, I think so.
Easy. I call the
Okay, let's
question.
keep, well, let's see if there's any questions on any of it. This is the American Heart Association on.
I don't
I
think
will say,
they
I
came
wanna,
to us.
specifically on this, I want to give a shout out to Betty and Zach for sitting on these meetings with us, going through because there were, start line changes.
Yeah.
Next
So
slide.
actually, it's going back to where it was, but in fact, the route is going to be the same. There's very few changes being made. There is a lot of construction, so there is a call that there may be some small modifications that nobody can control at the last minute. However, the construction groups are going to try to clean up the areas, so there, hopefully that won't occur. As far as the starting corral, you can see where they're located. The Chambers Street will remain open, West Street will remain open, and so will Murray Street. Even in that very small area, there are ways of getting around. And they are continuing, the American Heart Association continuing to work on community outreach. They have quite an elaborate plan. And applaud that. And they're also working more diligently with the MTA to try to get them to not truncate end routes too early, bus routes specifically. So there is a lot more work being done on that. For the resolution, the things that have changed, there was both the support for this that applauds, especially if they're cutting back aid at the federal level, things like heart disease and everything else, something more important. But focusing on the NYPD to remind them to please, with the rolling, opening and closing of streets, keep it as timely as possible. And also asking the MTA to minimize disruption.
The word beseech is fantastic. That's bravo.
We also worked and made the request for the American Heart Association and the MTA and NYPD to not cut off Lower Manhattan from MTA buses. So trying to work with them to make sure that the M20 can get as close to South Ferry as it can get, and that they don't cut the M9 off entirely because there's no access in or out of the lower parts of the island otherwise. Go ahead.
And dinner on Duane, as you can see, it's the usual, just for support of the park. Next. And it's, as it was in previous years, it's a long table along Duane Street between Greenwich and Hudson. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can see they've shown there's gonna be no change from last year for the plan for what they're going to do. As far as what streets are occupying or shutting off.
All right, I can hear you. All right, there we go. So let's take.
The support, and you can't ask for tickets in advance, because yes, they do sell out.
Yeah.
Can't be correct.
Okay.
Call the question.
Second.
Awesome. So this is a vote by affirmation. Do I hear any in opposition to any of these?
Buchin, no to the 5-borough bike tour because of the lack of care to inclusion of the e-bike. No. to that.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise,
That's
yeah.
one no. Are there any other in opposition? Are there any abstentions? Hearing, seeing none, online, all motions passed. Thank you very much. Now, Jason, you're gonna kill me. And Vicky-
lost.
No, let's just keep moving. I'm not gonna kill you. Let's keep moving. What's up?
So we have two committees.
Yeah.
Youth and Ed is supposed to be last this month.
Yeah, switch it
They-
up. Let's go.
They do not have a motion or a resolution to pass. So Morton, what are you gonna do?
What do you mean, what am I gonna do? We're gonna have a resolution next meeting.
But you're
Well,
gonna
you
ask,
passed it in committee, correct?
No, we didn't. We didn't even have text of a resolution coming.
You didn't write it in committee, you didn't do it in
No,
committee.
you had a vote in the committee, yes, you did, but they were
We
gonna
did
write it.
vote to make a resolution.
We
Yeah,
decided
we
to do a resolution, but there was no text of the resolution.
Okay,
Table.
okay, guys.
Table.
So youth and education voted on a resolution in committee, and they do not have the resolution ready for the meeting. Therefore, it has to be voted to table. Morton, make your motion.
Motion.
Second.
To table the resolution.
Thank you, because they don't have it ready.
Okay.
So this is a vote by affirmation. All those in, are there any in opposition to table? Are there any abstentions? Meltzer abstains because she's pissed. Okay, motion passes. All right, that makes you, Jason, last to go.
That's it.
That's it.
You skipped Battery Park City and
Oh,
Waterfront.
I skipped Battery Park City. I'm
And
sorry, Waterfront. I did. So Waterfront, Paul, go, Battery Park City,
And
go.
did we do landmark is him, okay, yeah.
We could do Waterfront very quickly. First person to come before the committee was Robert LaValva. He's been somebody who ran a street event on South Street from the years 2005 to 2014, and it was very successful. He had loads of vendors, very popular vendors, and lots of food offerings. Anyway, he's interested in doing a one-day trial a market right down on the municipal building, right downstairs. And he's going to do it in October. And it's possible it could go for 2 days, 1 or 2 days in October. And if it's successful, we'll see, if it lives on. But for now, it's just a proposed one-day street fair in October. Okay, that's that. And then the other report was Washington Market Park. They talked a lot about how their park is just deteriorating and the 3 playgrounds that they have are falling apart and literally need lots and lots of money. I mean, we were at the meeting and one part of the meeting said they needed $500 million. Another part of the meeting said they needed much, much less meeting. So there were still questions to be had and answered. And we did not take a final vote on that one either. I mean, these are proposals we support, but they were not brought to a vote and a resolution.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Justine?
No, Eric, actually.
Eric Flores, you're up.
I'll be very quick. We had no resolutions. We had Pamela Frederick, the CFO of the Battery Park City Authority, come in and talk to us about Battery Park City framework, how they collect ground rent, pilot, and maintenance fees. And then take those and pay into the joint purpose fund at the New York City General Fund. The most important, I thought, was the joint purpose fund. So this is where the 500 million for affordable housing exists. If I understood this right, Justine, there's only 314 million left.
Correct, yeah.
So they make payments into the joint purpose fund. The joint purpose fund then pays the Housing Development Corporation, and the HDC then sends
It spends the money as
the money as is, but no one could give us an answer of how much money would go to Battery Park City for affordable housing. We asked her for those monies. We also had Kate McDougal come in for Battery Park Resiliency. Wagner Park will be done, should be done in the summer of 2025, whether that's beginning, middle, or end, we don't know. Right now, flood walls and pavilion building construction are going up. There's gonna be some surface isolation work, which is a fancy word for fixing potholes. So there's gonna be some night work. Rector Place is open, and the Northwest Resiliency Project will not start until Wagner Park is open.
But I just want to remind everybody, since I had a project up in the Bronx that was funded by Battery Park money, excess money for affordable housing, all right? And that money was supposed to be always for affordable housing.
It was always, well, actually, I'm gonna say that.
Actually, I wanted to,
Jill?
Sorry.
Jill, Justine has the floor, you have to wait.
okay.
Originally, the iteration of affordable housing and the joint purpose funds were buckets. So only a percentage of, before 2025, or actually
2024.
24, when they decided it, Before then, only 280,000 million was allocated to affordable housing. A portion of it then was allocated to the general fund, a portion was allocated to some fund they had, state fund, and then there was something else that they were doing. Which I don't remember, but again, nothing was in Battery Park City, and so I hear you, affordable housing is built with this money, and now they've committed 500 million to be built. Of that, on top of it is 5 million for 5 World Trade Center, that's still there and earmarked. And that's on top of the 500 million, which is great, but what they could not and would not say is not one dime of that money is going back to affordability in Battery Park City.
HTC pays it.
It goes
the
out.
City and the state.
And as we well know here in Community Board One, not much of that money makes its way down to Community Board One in Lower Manhattan.
Except 5 more trade.
Except 5 more.
Jill, then Mariana.
Yeah, so the 5 World Trade money was separate, but my understanding is of the $500 million that has been given to the city for affordable housing, nothing is earmarked for Lower Manhattan for the Community Board One area, and they told us basically, talk to the city, see what you can do. You know, further.
They wouldn't answer, they wouldn't answer.
No, there's 2 parts to this. Further, my understanding, which may be 100% wrong, is that none of that city money can be used in Battery Park City because that is state-owned property. So of $500 million of.
HTC gives to the state too.
Excuse me, can I finish?
Yeah.
My understanding is $500 million of, in effect, tax money collected from Battery Park City. None of it will be going to preserve or the limited existing housing that's not really affordable, it's just rent stabilized, or create anything new. Further, Battery Park City Authority, who has given this $500 million, has not made any requests, nor do they feel they can, for any of this affordable housing to be in Community Board One. Thank you.
That's correct. They have no control over how HTC spends the money.
Thank you, thank you. Hold on, Mariana, Rosette, Jess.
So that $5 million, the governor agreed to give that to 5 World Trade Center. However, we'd asked for other money and were basically explicitly told that they prefer to send that money to the outer boroughs. We were saying just this once, can we please keep that money in Lower Manhattan to provide not only Lower Manhattan, but, you know, specifically Battery Park City or that area right on. And we're told it's too expensive to build affordable housing down here, so the money is better spent, and they'd rather send it to the outer boroughs.
That's HGC speaking, yep.
That was, and the controller's office also said that.
All I'm gonna say is 5 World Trade and 100 Gold, 2 excellent opportunities in Lower Manhattan to do
100%
affordable housing.
Agreed.
Quick question. So my understanding is that the joint purpose fund, like the original purpose of that was to fund projects like Susan was saying.
Correct.
But the Battery Park City, as part of their just general budget, does support affordable housing. For example, at Gateway, the agreement they have with LeFrak, they are in effect subsidizing that with their own budget.
Well, I would challenge that
For
statement.
the next 5
and
years.
say-
Just for the next, that's ending.
It's ending, but I also would challenge that statement and say that the authority is subsidizing Gateway on the backs of the other the condos, other residential buildings.
What?
They need, let me finish my sentence. They are taking a nut of money that they need to have in their ground rent collections. If they're only getting, it's a pie. Wherever the pie comes from, if Gateway is being given this lower ground rent, which, this is how they look at it in their minds, and it's all fungible money.
You can
Let me
look at
put
it as
somebody
a
else.
way of saying Goldman got the sweetheart deal
They did,
because they paid up in advance and they're paying nothing now.
I agree with you on that sentence too.
Keep going.
Just for money numbers, like, last year they generated $382 million and only 39% of that was spent in Battery Park City.
Exactly. And that is just the greater point, is that the city has shown no willingness to create affordable housing in high demand neighborhoods where it's really needed.
Correct.
But All right, let's move on from Battery Park City. I thank everybody very much.
Tammy, did you mean to skip the reports and using that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I'm not complaining, I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure. It was a-
No, I did. I did. So we got those and Landmarks is gonna take us home. They can report next month.
And it was not
with the
controversial, and it was for Governor's Island, for a super old house that had many added parts over its long history from before the turn of the 20th century. We didn't like the way the canopy presented itself, kind of like clashed with the sensibility of that type of structure, this idea of a canopy, like a mercantile canopy like that. So we asked them to consider the way that was designed by maybe grounding it better, actually attaching it to the ground, and then also thinking about connecting the rear doors on that porch with the side doors that you can see are kind of classical. Otherwise, we liked it. It's really a full rehabilitation of a building that's in complete disrepair. And they've done good work already in Nolan Park, so we thought it was a good thing.
I'm good. All the questions.
Second.
Yeah.
Again, this is a roll call vote for closing the meeting. Take it away.
And stay quiet so that everybody's vote can be heard. I'm going to start backwards.
Backwards.
Zelter.
Zelter, yes.
Thank you. You.
Yes.
Thank you. Townley.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thompson. Thank you. Verison.
Yes.
Thank you. Stark.
Yes, yes.
Oh, thank you. Shear.
What, I don't interpret.
Say yes.
Say something.
Maybe.
Scott.
What happened?
Scott.
Miriam.
Oh, did Scott leave? He probably thinks that we're getting to him later.
Yes, I heard.
Yeah.
Rossi.
Rossi, yes.
Thank you. Portia Corey. Nobody expects this, okay? Nadia.
Don't see anyone.
Nobody expects a roll.
Portia Corey's right there, though.
Yeah.
Online, so they just call.
Did she say anything?
No.
Anyway, Minsley.
Yes.
Melter.
Yes.
Lewinson.
Yes.
Thank you. Lerner.
Lerner, yes.
Thank you. Capel.
Yes.
All right.
Online.
Kay.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. James.
James, yes.
Thank you. Hernandez.
Yes, and then yes.
Thank you. Good kind.
Good kind, yes.
Thank you. Goldstein.
Goldstein, yes.
Thank you. Friedman.
Jason.
Jason was just here, packed up and left.
I heard him say yes.
He said yes for somebody else. Flynn, yes. Flores,
Yes.
which you can't vote for other people. Kuchar.
Yes.
Thank you. Corbin.
Corman.
Corbin.
Martin recuses.
Recuse.
No, Landmarks. You don't have a financial interest in it.
But I thought, it's not how I read it. That's not how I read it.
As you wish to go.
If he wishes.
I will refuse on this one.
Okay.
Relax.
It's not how I. Yes.
Thank you. Cole.
Yes.
Thank you. Charcudian.
Yes.
Thank you. Chapman.
Kevin, yeah.
Thank you. Chang.
Chang, yes.
Thank you. Cassell.
Cassell, yes.
Thank you.
You gotta go back.
Brown Kennedy.
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Thank you. Blank.
Blank, yes.
Thank you. And Russo.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, going back down to, Portia Corey. Kandaya.
Kandaya's there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, just say something.
Can you hear me?
Kandaya, can
Are you
you?
talking to me? Yes, here. I can't hear everything, sorry.
Vote. It's a vote.
Is you have to say Kandaya, yes?
No.
Pandaya,
say-
yes.
Thank you. All right. Did we leave?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, and then, Jason.
Also, just.
Five much to adjourn. All right.
Go there.